this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us some family here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Here we are, one big happy effing family.
And also joining me is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
Han Solo has 4 kids that we know of. If you meet Han Solo, one of 2 things happen to you. You either get shot or you're pregnant.
And also joining me is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Some motherfuckers always trying to race uphill. Skate uphill. Skate uphill. I sound just like Blade.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. Con!
Yeah.
And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast reviewcast for San Diego Comic-Con 2019.
You know what's so funny? We've said that quote a million times and we never get it right except Darren.
I'm always hopeful that this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. I didn't know you were going to say that quote, but when you started saying it, I had my fingers crossed. And I was like, come on, B.
Can I try it again?
You can.
I'm doing my best Blade voice.
And also joining me is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Some motherfuckers always trying to skate uphill. Is that right?
I like how it goes up at the end. Like
I skate uphill.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Hold on. Some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill.
There you go.
Yeah.
I sound like Blade.
It works for me because I can see you pantomiming and doing like your ice skating hands. I guess maybe Kuma agrees.
Yeah, we're in the disco den today. And we got a friend.
That means we get puppy pets because Akuma's here.
Yeah.
There's puppy love in the air.
He's my best friend now.
There you go.
We are back as we do annually once we return from our annual pilgrimage over to the West Coast for San Diego Comic-Con. We've come to share tales of our great adventure.
Do we need to? Because we did everything we promised we were going to do on our preview cast, so you can just listen to our preview cast and know everything that we did, right?
Brad, that's never how it goes.
Oh, no?
Never.
Though this time I finally did something. This is a teaser, so people don't just turn the shit off. I did something that I have been aiming to do, and I had never done in our 9 years of going to Comic-Con, and I've been trying to go to it for 7 years.
The music.
8 years.
Stay tuned.
Years.
No, because this is the 7th annual, so.
Oh.
So that's how numbers work.
Stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excited! All right, so we're gonna do it like how we typically do it historically. We've gone round robin with the days, so we'll start with Thursday because we. Do you want to? Because you got there.
We got there
early, so you do that. Talk about that because you always start your adventure before Comic-Con officially starts.
We usually arrive on Tuesday and leave on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
This year, because we have a family event with Lisa's people.
Boo!
Not boo, they're lovely.
Yay!
I can't wait to be in a house with 16 people.
Yeah. That all look like me. It's gross.
This year we went on Sunday. We did Sunday through Monday.
Yep.
And what was interesting is we drove up to Los Angeles
on Tuesday
because Lisa wanted to see Put Your Hands Together, one of the last episodes.
Yeah.
Like
so
ever?
Sad. Yeah, because it's Cameron Esposito and Rhea Butcher are getting a divorce.
What?
I know. I'm heartbroken. And since I was listening to the podcast and the sets they were doing together, I was like, a lot of their sets circled around, like, I didn't know that marriage involves so much yelling.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, I don't think this marriage is going so hot. And I was rooting for them, and then they got separated, and now they are going through divorce. And so they decided that they were going to end the show and that they're not going to host the last 4 shows together. So Cameron is doing 2, and then Rhea is doing 2. So we saw the last Cameron Esposito episode.
And it was great.
And it was great. The first thing she did was cry, so that seemed appropriate. I got super choked up. Because
that sucks.
Yeah, like, starting Put Your Hands Together was like one of the first things she's done since she's been to LA. And now she's done all of these comedy specials, and she's been in movies, and she's gotten married, and she's gotten divorced, and I feel like I've been there through all of that.
Yeah.
So I definitely wanted to catch that. And my all-time favorite stand-up comedian was there, Maria Bamford. I love Maria Bamford, and she
Was
did.
she a part of the show?
Yeah, because the show is stand-up sets.
Okay.
So they had a couple different people do stand-up sets. And Maria Bamford did one, and it was absolutely amazing, and it was not released on the podcast.
Oh.
So, because people do mics in LA to work on stuff. Sometimes they're using it for TV or whatever, so not everything ends up on the show.
Yeah.
So I really felt like, and I'd never seen Cameron host. I've seen Rhea host, I've seen a guest host, but this is the first time I saw Cameron host. So that was really exciting and really special. So we had to do that.
That was a good time. And when we were at the show at the UCB Theater, I went into the used bookstore that was next door. And while I was wandering around their antique section where they have autographed books, I found a Harlan Ellison book. I told you about this, right? Yeah. And it was Edgeworks Volume 2 with Spider Kiss and Stalking the Nightmare. I opened it up. It's signed by Ellison, and it's signed to, it's personalized to Stan Lee.
Shut up.
So it's Stan Lee's copy of that book, personalized to him by Harlan Ellison.
And you have it.
And now I bought it. Because
it was only $75. That's practically free.
Yeah,
like, Brad could not even believe it. He's, like, holding it and taking pictures of it. And I'm like, Brad, you realize we're walking out of this building with this, or I don't know who you are.
Yeah, so at some point, Harlan Ellison signs this thing to Stan Lee. Stan Lee says, this is great, and he sells it off.
Yeah,
or
and
his
it's got
people
a
sell it
really
off.
sweet personal message. He calls him Stan, the core of the plan, Lee.
Yeah. And he says, like, from your pal who's always been fighting against darkness. It's an awesome thing. You go to my Instagram at Mouth.
Why am I just finding out about this shit right now?
It's magical.
That's fucking crazy.
The other part of the story, Darren, is I got sick and I lost my voice, so I barely got to talk to you at all.
That's right.
And when I told Brian the story, it was like,
No. You told me when I flew in, and you guys took me to the
right.
Kevin Eastman Museum Library.
Yeah,
I see how it is.
Yeah.
I don't find out shit unless I'm with Brian.
Well, you flew in after.
I'm sorry, Darren. I'm sorry. Darren.
We did get to take Brian on a little outing, though. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
That was at the San Diego Comic Art Gallery over at IDW Publishing that Kevin Eastman runs.
That was on Wednesday.
That was great.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about the pre-Comic-Con trip is while we were in LA, we also went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where
this is a crazy story.
Charlie Chaplin is interred, his ashes. That's where, Judy Garland. That's where, Tyrone Power and all these Hollywood bigwigs, John Huston. Yeah. And that's where Anton Yelchin was laid to rest as well. Did we not tell you this story, Darren?
This story is a lot. Prepare yourselves.
Yeah.
So we get there. We walk quite a ways to get to Santa Monica Boulevard to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and then we buy like a $5 map of the cemetery so you can go visit.
Which
all
I
the sites.
have right here.
Oh yay!
If you want to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Lisa will tweet it so you can look at it. And let's find Anton Yelchin's grave.
Because it's got a nice statue. We had seen it in the Love and Tosha documentary that we saw at Sundance.
Yeah, and so we make our way out there, and as we're walking to his grave, we see a woman sitting at his grave, and it's his mom.
Oh, shit.
That's what we said. And so we kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, we're not going over there. So, because we don't want to interrupt whatever's
her
going
grieving
on.
or whatever. Yeah.
So we walk around and then I go, like, we see this little tiny, cute little sports car. And I go, like, Brad, this is her car. And he's like, what makes you say that? And I'm not going to say what her license plate is, but her license plate has Anton in it. Mm. And then in the back, she has arranged out nicely a jean jacket and then a picture of her son sitting on it. So she drives around in like a memorial mobile.
And, you know, another woman was there with her, and it seemed pretty clear to us that Anton's mom was telling her stories of her son to this stranger. Mm-hmm. And we were like, okay, well, that's not our place to then join in and hog in on that. So we'll just continue to look around the cemetery, which was gorgeous. And at the end, we were like, should we say anything to her? She clearly is staying there. The other woman left. She wants some kind of interaction with fans. Is that our place? Should we do that?
We came to the conclusion of she is clearly there to speak to people. Yeah. And so I was like, I think the compassionate thing to do would be to go up to her and thank her.
And say, we did come to the cemetery to see your son's memorial.
And celebrate his work, and he's made a positive impact
So
on
we're
us.
walking up to her. She gets on the phone, and we're like, okay, we're done. We don't have to do anything. And then we left.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like really heartbreaking, and yeah.
It's a really, as far as cemeteries go, and this is the second vacation we've had this summer that involved crawling through cemeteries. Oh, yeah. But this is one where like it seems like around us there's pretty stringent rules about like what a grave site should look like, and they tend to be very uniform. A lot of like modern cemeteries now have like the flat headstones. Yeah. Well, this place is like statues and different shapes, and everybody has their headshot on it. Like it feels just so rich, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous cemetery.
And they have, you know, places for ashes. They have big mausoleum type areas. Yeah. There are some where people like literally you can have any headstone you want. So some people would have like a plot, and then they'd have almost like a cowboy style headstone where it's like a stick,
a wooden cross. Yeah. You know, Anton's grave is a statue of him.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And at the base, people came and they left like pop figures of him.
Yeah, and tickets, movie ticket stubs.
Yeah, you know, like that Sundance stub to his doc was there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like, okay, there's a lot of reverence in this place and a lot of celebration going on.
Yeah.
But also like a lot of like
grieving.
Creativity.
Oh yeah.
Like to me, it's just like every little piece has so much character.
And while we were there, 4 people were being interred.
Yeah, it's
still
really
active.
busy. It's not full of stars. It's like a functioning. It's a cemetery.
Yeah. So that
kind of reminds me of like Arlington Cemetery. How
people
still,
where it's like it's a tourist attraction,
but also people, because my mother's cousin was buried there at Arlington Cemetery. So because I didn't realize that people were still getting buried in Arlington Cemetery. So I was like, okay, so it must be the same way.
Exactly. Yeah, it felt very much so. Wow. So we did that. It was a really interesting trip to LA. And then we picked up Brian. We took him to the museum, and then I guess we waited for Darren and see Zach to show up.
All right. So,
but like, what an interesting trip this was. You know, last year when we recorded this episode, Darren, you weren't able to make it, and it was a weird, funky vibe. Just the 3 of us, right?
Yeah.
And this year was just so great to get the whole fam together.
Plus Sia, plus Zach.
It did. Last year was Darren not being there, and then all the stuff happening around Comic-Con last year with James Gunn, the passing of Schnepp. Last year just felt
weird.
I felt that there was a bit more of a bond, definitely between the 3 of us being there. It was more of a connection. I think that
we hung out more, definitely.
Yeah, and also because of everything that was happening, it just made us, I guess, appreciate being able to be at Comic-Con. And now this year having Darren back and not having those type of stories in the air,
and then being able to watch Comic-Con through the eyes of Sia. We've done a Comic-Con with Zach before, and it's still a blast to watch it through Zach's eyes and have conversations with Zach about all kinds of panels and Blade and the Eternals and things like that.
He's the only one who noticed my Thanos shoes.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
I'm wearing them now because you missed them before. Look how cool.
Dope.
Oh yeah.
But
Jen Bartel.
I had a lot of stress about Sia coming because I was like, oh God, Sia's gotta love it. What if she doesn't love it? She's gonna pull Darren away from everything. She's gonna ruin everything. And it couldn't have been further from the truth.
She's so cool.
Yeah. Well, she has a cool daddy.
Yeah.
So
humble too.
The apple doesn't fall too far from the disco tree. So let's hit Thursday up. So starting with you, B.
Man.
How was Thursday for you?
Thursday was light. Thursday was a light day. Most of my days were kind of light, but to kind of go through Thursday, slept in a little late. I think I left the hotel. Yeah, I did. I left a little earlier than you guys did. And because my intentions were to go and try to get to that Terminator Dark Fate panel.
Oh, yeah.
That didn't end up happening. It seems like I wasn't the only person that had that idea.
Like, so you could just walk in, not so much.
Thursday's line for Hall H was long?
It was pretty long. And I thought, because I think the panel started at 11. Yep. So I was like, all right, let me see if I can get in. So it was like around 10:30, 10:20, something like that. And I went and got in line, but then I realized, no, it was a little bit later because I was in line. And may have been like in the third or fourth tent, and it was already 11 o'clock. And I was like, there's no point in me standing in this line. So I just got back out of line, and then I started. I had my camera, my phone, because my intention was to kind of just shoot some footage, and I'll have some.
You got a lot of footage.
I got a lot of footage. So I just kind of went around and shot some footage with my phone, with my little gimbal. I'm putting together a little highlight piece that'll be up on the YouTube channel. But I went around to the backside where they were putting up the Adult Swim stuff, and actually ran into Darren and Sia, who were chilling out there by the water, and then just kind of hung with them, and then we end up kind of retiring early for the day.
It's funny because this year, Thursday, not only the Adult Swim, but FX had a huge display on the backside.
Yeah,
it's funny because that thing wasn't even built. It wasn't even completed. It's like they were just starting on Thursday, which was odd because from my recollection, typically, like in years past, like that stuff is pretty much set up.
Usually, but FX has had problems in the past. I don't know if you remember the Simpsons year.
Yes,
they were still constructing that giant Homer head.
Because that was our donut year. I did go inside Homer Simpson's
What was
head.
inside of Homer's head?
They did kind of like, remember how it was like round on the top? Because it's shaped like Homer's head. They projected like a little preview of the Simpsons app.
That's cool.
And then you got like a little
Simpsons
inflatable donut. They also had like an area with carnival games and stuff like that.
Okay.
Little freebies.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think.
What about on the floor?
Honestly, I didn't get on the floor a lot this year. I think I went on the floor a little bit on Thursday. I think I went around Artist Alley a little bit.
But like honestly, Brian, you took the lead this year on acquiring a spot in Hall H, and a lot of your Thursday was trying to scope out how Saturday was going to go down.
Well, true, because was that Thursday night? That's right.
Yes.
That's right, because the line was going to start Friday. That's right, so it was Thursday night. Okay, yeah.
So we didn't have Michael or Sean with us, who usually, bully their way to the front of the Hall H group.
Yeah.
And so it really came down to Brian making it happen. And you seemed to like really want to make that your mission. Like because you knew Darren was going to be with Sia and Zach a lot. And so you're like, this is Brian's year.
Well, Zach wanted to stay out there.
He wanted to stay out, but my goal, I guess, Thursday was to find out what the protocol was for lining up for Saturday.
Because that shit changes every year.
It changes all the time. And I guess we'll kind of get into that for... I'll talk about that for Friday after we do our go around. But on Thursday, I did go to where people were lining up just to get some intel, some information about it. And they were like, well, we're going to start lining up like around tonight, around midnight. So I told Darren, I was like, I think I'm going to come back around 11, 12 o'clock tonight just to kind of stay out so we can get a spot in line. so I knew where to line up. But yeah, you're right. I did kind of want to make that my intention because I knew like you guys wanted panels. Like Darren had Sia, and then the rest of our con fam. I didn't want to really have to because I know Scott and his family. They kind of do they usually they come in late. And Aisha and them, sometimes
they weren't going to do it. Yeah. It's going to be on you.
So I kind of took it upon myself, knowing last year the sacrifice that Sean made, who was a trooper. Unfortunately, because of how the procedures go, it didn't go down last year the way it went this year. So if Sean was here this year, it would have been a completely different ball game. But I wanted to kind of, at least kick the ball off and try to get us a good spot.
And you did.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll get to it, but you did, Brian.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Darren made me feel a little bit better, but I was a little, but, it is what it is.
The best laid plans of Comic-Con. Aft Gang of Glane.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, that was pretty much my Thursday. We retired early and got some sleep back in the room, and we watched a lot of Naked and Afraid
in the hotel. That's become
in the hotel
a tradition now. You guys, apparently. Oddly enough, Sia was just, when is the next episode coming? And she was compelled by that show.
She a budding survivalist?
I don't know.
What would she bring? Has she decided what her thing she would bring would be?
She did. You know what? That's a good question. I did not think to ask that. But I just couldn't believe that she was into that show.
Shiv.
Ooh. Don't keister a shiv.
Okay.
Keister, does that mean
stick it up her butt?
Yeah, I'd sneak it on.
You can bring it. They give you a choice.
Yeah, but then I get twice as many things.
Oh, okay. Keister the other thing. That's sharp.
The only other thing is a stuffed animal because and weirdly, that stuffed animal also keistering a shit.
All right.
Lisa, how was How was your Thursday?
My Thursday was great. Brad and I started together. I guess we spent Thursday.
We spent all Thursday together.
Yeah, we love each other deeply, so we can take turns. But we started out by hitting the floor first thing.
Yeah.
And we went right to the CBS All Access booth so we could have the transporter experience.
Yes. So
that was your first stop? Like you went directly
that was our first stop. We barely had to wait in line.
Yeah, I wanted that Picard pin.
Yeah, and we were doing some light coverage for Star Trek TrekNews.net. Mm-hmm. So we had to send Brian those pics. And so they had a little thing where you got to go in and it's like a transporter booth and they make a little video of you. And you can email it to yourself. And I was a little underwhelmed by it. I wish they had told me, and hopefully they did this in the future, to put your chin up. Because you're being videoed from above.
Yeah.
So I was doing some really fantastic mugging for my video. I was making all kinds of oohs and ah faces, but all you see is the top of my head.
I was having trouble hearing the guy.
Yeah, so Brad looks confused and turning around.
In my video, I'm turning away from the camera. Everyone's just picking up my
Brad,
backside.
you were doing the John Travolta. You know the John Travolta meme when they insert him?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I was doing the John Travolta on the transporter bridge. And that's the only footage I had to email to Brian at Trek News, and so that's what he tweeted out. I'm like, I'm sorry, Brian. I ain't getting back in this line.
They had some props, Picard.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. But next to that was the Toho booth.
Yeah,
with Godzilla, and they had the suit from Godzilla 2000.
Screen used
and
looking a little worse.
And you got to pose with it, and then they made a little green screen video of you fighting Godzilla. You got to pick your background.
When you guys posted that, I saw Lisa's first.
Yeah,
I was like, "Where's Brad's at?"
I was having some Wi-Fi issues
because yours said Godzilla versus Wife Dork.
Yeah.
And mine says
Mouth Dork.
I did it right. It looks good. It looks good. It's my new profile photo.
Zach did one too.
He did.
Yeah. That was a good booth, and they were selling all kinds of really great things there. And then Lisa and I just went and tried to do a quick tour of the action figures and statues of the area. We saw the Sith Trooper that they had on display at the Star Wars.
Yeah. You know what? That's cool. I'm going to stop you right there, though, because it is not your turn, motherfucker. It is Lisa's Thursday.
But we're sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they were together.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, at 11:30.
I've been put in my place.
At 11:30, I finally made it to the 7th annual Music Anatomy of a Superhero
Finally.
Film and TV Composer panel.
Thank you.
because usually they have that as like the first thing at 10, and generally I'm like so excited to get to the floor that I have always in the past skipped it. But it being at 11:30, we got some time on the floor, and so I was like, okay, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. And it was in ballroom 20, so there was plenty of room. We got great seats.
Was it crowded? Did it?
No.
It was not crowded.
No,
really?
ballroom 20 was practically empty. I mean, we were in like the 5th or 6th row.
Oh shit!
Right.
Really? You just walked in?
We just walked in.
No line.
No.
They didn't have a lot of stuff going on after that. In like Thursday, ballroom 20 was pretty. Like you want to say Hall H was light. Ballroom 20 was practically empty all day Thursday.
Okay.
So the panel was moderated by Michael Giacchino of all of the MCU plus Inside Out plus Lost.
I mean, he's done a bunch of Pixar stuff. Incredibles, Up, you know.
He's directing, right?
Yeah.
He did a short film.
We saw it last year at Fantastic Fest with Patton Oswalt. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. So and then the other composers were, there were some women composers, so excited. So the panelists were Pinar Toprak, who was the composer for Captain Marvel and Krypton, Benjamin Wallfish, who was the composer for Shazam and Hellboy, Sherry Chung, who is the composer for Batwoman and Supergirl, Blake Neely, who was a composer for Batwoman and The Flash, and then Christopher Lennertz, who was the composer for The Boys, which is that series that's coming out, and Agent Carter. And I was a little underwhelmed by the panel. Yeah, really? I was. Because I was really getting excited about getting really nerdy about music. I wanted to hear about orchestration. I wanted to hear about... But mostly it was like, okay, let's see clips of of these projects. So I got to see clips of Batwoman, which was pretty cool.
But it was not technical. It was all emotional.
Yeah.
Like, how does it feel to be doing this thing? It feels great.
You know what? I bet that Junkie XL, when he was there, I guarantee you his would have been what you were looking for.
The composer that made me the most intrigued about his work was actually Christopher Lennertz. Because he talked about, he went in to the Boys doing kind of a, like, he did include some electronic instruments and bass, but he was approaching it pretty traditionally. But then when he turned it in, they were like, could you make it, we need something a little bit more, something a little bit different. So he went back in post, and he started putting parts in reverse and started bending pitches and doing all of this stuff to make it kind of feel kind of off. Because the world in The Boys is kind of off. And then also there's like these two sides. So like one is very traditionally orchestral. The other is like a little bit more twisted. So I was like, okay, I'm intrigued in that.
That's cool.
But Michael Giacchino started the panel by saying like, the first 15 question askers get a goodie bag full of Spider-Man stuff. And then the person with the best question gets a autographed Spider-Man Far From Home poster.
Wow. So everybody rushed
so everybody was just asking idiotic questions, which they only got to 4 anyway. I actually got in line for a second, because I was like, I have an orchestration question, but then I got too shy, and it was too late, and so the panel is over. So, and just the poster went to the last person who asked a question, because that's how it always is. So, I don't know if it necessarily,
back.
Run to go to that panel.
Yeah, like the big panels, the Hall H's and the Ballroom 20s, they are not like the nitty gritty detail stuff. It's when you get into the smaller rooms and you go to like DC Collectibles or sci-fi alternate history writing. That's when the people tend to get a little bit more nerdier.
Exactly.
But when they're playing to a large crowd, it's pretty broad material.
Okay. Yeah, I usually find that to be the case, because you see that in Hall H all the time.
Sure.
Just the questions that people ask,
and they keep going. I have my issues with that.
We haven't gotten to Hall H yet.
We have not. So I guess you can take over at this point. We ended up going back to the floor, stomping around a little bit more.
Did you make purchases?
Not on Thursday.
Yeah, we did. We bought those 2 Mr. Miracle T-shirts.
Oh, we bought some
His
T-shirts.
and hers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Miracle T-shirts.
Yeah.
But we were trying to keep our spending to Sunday. That was our goal this year.
Right.
And for the most part, we kept
We
to
did
it.
pretty well.
Okay.
And then at 3:30 was my favorite panel that was not in Hall H, The Great Debate. Sci-Fi Wire's The Great Debate, which is always a really wonderful and well-done panel.
Which, again, was in Ballroom 20 later in the afternoon, much more crowded.
Mm-hmm.
Still, we're able to walk right on in.
Yep.
Wow.
And we...
Okay.
Did we catch a panel before that?
We caught the end of the Nancy Drew panel.
By the end, you mean practically the whole thing. We watched a whole episode of the new Nancy Drew, and it looks like...
They're basically doing Riverdale to Nancy Drew.
Like, the scene we walked in on was Nancy Drew getting down with the dude. Having some intercourse.
Yeah.
Wait, what channel is this on?
CW, I think.
Yes, I thought.
Yeah, well, you don't see stuff.
Well, yeah, but it's still,
There's no penetration, Brian. Back off.
But that is a very easy mystery to solve.
But I mean,
I knew exactly what was happening.
it's still implied. And I would think the CW. Well,
I mean, it's like Riverdale. Like Riverdale, they're hunting bears and boning each other constantly, and that's what's going on in Nancy
too
Drew.
perfect.
Well, true.
But it wasn't the worst thing in the world. We were talking to some friends in our Hall H line who really disliked it, but it was fine. It passed the time, and it led into the Great Debate. And I think this year was the best Great Debate we've had.
It was so wonderful. Aisha Tyler moderated, and she gave a wonderful intro for it, saying that they keep getting better because I keep drinking more and more each time. She's a classy lady.
She should moderate all the panels.
Yes.
Why not?
Seriously.
She is like the queen of panel moderation.
She's
She
great.
was there last year. She moderated the WB panel.
Right.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
So good.
Awesome.
And the panel was full of really funny, off-the-cuff people. Danny Fernandez.
Love her.
Yeah, I was making eye
Love
contact
her.
with Brian, so I could see.
I know. She's awesome, man.
She retweeted it, Modcast.
I saw, yeah.
did.
She's cool.
Naomi Ekperigan, who is a stand-up comedian whom I love, who is still a little bit obscure. So I was really excited to see her up there. But she does a really wonderful podcast with her betrothed called Couples Therapy, which I really enjoy. And she's been on Two Dope Queens, and she's just the best. And then Travis McElroy, who is one of the infamous McElroys who have a podcast empire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they started with a show called My Brother and Me, and there are 3 of them, but now they have like a bajillion podcasts, and their whole family just lives off of podcasts, like some people used to live off the land.
Wow.
And he's really funny. Felicia Day, who I always find really adorable and funny.
Yeah.
She is always uber sexual, which I find hilarious because I think she's such a sweetie, and she's talking about like lizards having 2-pronged penises.
Oh.
And then Thomas Lennon from Reno 911.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And he entered the stage by doing a cartwheel, which I thought was fantastic.
Impressive.
That's how you should enter
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
What I love about this panel is it's clear that, 1, they pick really wonderful people, but 2, they kind of prep them. So each panelist came out and was asked a question and had the ability to do a little prepared bit. So everybody was starting off on the right foot. Everybody was getting laughs right away.
Okay.
And then as they went into the different debates, some of them seemed off of the cuff. Other ones seemed prepared. And I thought that and of course, Aisha Tyler does a wonderful job of keeping everything moving along. So I think that, and what I love is that other members of the Con fam, Aisha, Fatima, and Miriam were at that panel, and now they too love Naomi Ekperigan. So it's just
That's cool.
spreading the love of just really wonderful stand-up. And then at the end, like, they go down the line and everybody gets to say, like, oh, these are the other things I'm doing at Comic-Con. And she's like, this is the only thing I'm doing at Comic-Con? I can't believe that I'm here. I'm going to go home. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just like, yes. She is so wonderful. So
What were the topics?
Well, they had... You can hear me shuffling through my notes, doing a little Foley here. one of them, my quote was pulled from, like, who's got more swagger, Wolverine or Han Solo? The quote I used was from Tom Lennon, who was like, Han Solo is shooting people and getting ladies pregnant.
Yeah, but then Danny Fernandez is like, he's just producing leather daddies.
No,
and
Wolverine
incels.
is a leather daddy.
Well,
but,
Kylo Ren's a little bit of a leather daddy, too.
But she does say that that Han Solo did raise an incel, which we can't
It's true.
disagree. Bench Please, where they take bench characters from different franchises and argue for who was the best. So, for example, Danny Fernandez argued for Nebula, and her argument for Nebula is like, she can charge your iPhone, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that was funny. Naomi Ekperigin argued for Neville Longbottom from the Harry Potter universe.
I don't know.
Jared doesn't know who this
Sorry,
person
Jennifer, she's gonna kill me.
But he is a Hufflepuff, and he was cast as a child for being very strange looking.
Oh.
But now has gotten, according to the internet, oddly sexy.
Oh.
So Naomi Ekperigin says that Neville is ride or die. Neville is there for the glow up, and he is.
Oh,
he is.
okay.
So that was one of the topics. They had, this is a good one. This one was between Felicia Day and Tom Lennon. Which nostalgic property is actually kind of bad? And Felicia Day made the classic argument for the Smurfs being bad because, what's the lady Smurf called? Smurfette was, apparently she was inserted by the Gargamel.
Yeah.
Created her to be a distraction to the other, but now she's just there and apparently...
Oh, I didn't know that.
She's the only lady.
No.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Oh.
But Tom Lennon made the argument that it is actually Ewoks that are horrible. And it's not... And it's not because they can make booby traps. It's because they eat people.
Do they?
Yeah.
They were going to roast up Han Solo and
They
Luke
have
Skywalker.
recipes.
That's right.
They have leftovers.
They eat those stormtroopers. Where do you think those helmets come from, man?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it was wonderful
okay with
topics
that.
like that.
Mine too.
If you want to seek out, I highly recommend seeking out this panel online and watching it on the YouTube.
I would like to attend it next year.
It's
It's the best, and everybody gets like little paddles, and you get to vote.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there was a weird movement against the red side of the panel. Like, why do we gotta be? Because one side is like a green thumbs up, and the other is a red thumbs down. And they're like, why do we need the red thumbs down? Why don't we just either do the green side or not raise the paddle at all?
Yeah.
But it's fun to have a prop.
Wish I could.
Do you get to keep the paddle?
Oh, yeah.
Paddle.
Yeah, I have kept them from years past, but I'm a mature person.
now
I
that
don't
we're-
need every cheap piece of paper I get handed at Comic-Con.
Oh, it's a piece of. It's not a paddle.
No.
It's
Oh, damn.
I'm sure you could paddle someone with it lightly
Oh.
if you wanted to.
Okay.
You get thumbs down.
All right. What else?
What else did we do Thursday? What did we do Thursday
we
night?
spent most of it in the exhibit hall.
Yeah.
Taking photos, snapping photos. You can see those all on our social media feeds. And then that evening we walked around the gas lamp a little bit. But like Brian, we called it in pretty early because we wanted to get up for Friday.
Yeah. I think we were home by like 8:30.
Yeah, and we were asleep.
Yeah.
All right.
We weren't watching Nude and Afraid or whatever that's called.
Naked and Afraid.
Oh, yeah.
You know my strategy.
Brett, what about you?
That was it. That's pretty much it. I don't have much else to contribute other than to say like the exhibit hall this year was rearranged quite a bit.
Yep.
DC moved to the Warner Brothers booth, and the Warner Brothers booth pretty much just like ended up sharing space with DC, which I thought was odd.
And it was towards the back in the corner.
Yeah, over by the Funko line, right? Yeah. So it's really crowded. Warner Brothers has all their crazy signings that they're going on. And I'm just at the DC booth because I want to look at props because they had all the Dark Knight costumes on display. Yep. And I want to look at Batman black and white statues and collectibles in general. And this year, their collectibles at the DC booth were radically lessened. There just was not a lot at the DC booth going on. So that was kind of interesting. And then Funko had like another Funko exclusive booth on the opposite end of the exhibit hall that had like
I will talk
toucan
about that.
exclusives.
For my Thursday.
Okay. Well, let's get to your Thursday.
Was that Thursday or Friday? Oh, Thursday.
That was Thursday. Well, again, because I had Sia with me this year, like you, Brian, this year, this Comic-Con was very different for me, which it seemed that to be the case historically. Like every year, each of my visits has a different vibe, a different agenda, a different flow and feel to it. This one was unique in that there was nothing that, obviously outside of, being in Hall H on Saturday, there was nothing that I had to do, no place I had to be or anything that I had to buy or get, right? And, as mentioned on our preview cast, my only goal this year, my only aim was to, like you mentioned, Brad, make sure Sia had a good time, but just witness Comic-Con through her eyes, see what that particular experience would be like, just making sure she enjoyed it. And then just enjoying the process, by proxy, and enjoying the con in that way. And so Thursday, as Brian had mentioned, he left earlier than Sia and I did because I was not in a rush. I didn't want to. I wasn't in a rush to get on the floor or get to a panel
or exhaust her too early.
Yeah, or burn her out. We took our time getting to the convention center. So even that process was cool for her, riding the shuttle, and then. Because she continuously asked me, leading up to us getting to the convention center, is that the convention center? When we were in a rental car, we were driving by places, and she would say, is that the convention center? And I would tell her, no, baby. I said, when you see it, you'll know it. You'll know the convention center when you see it. So when we get off the shuttle and we cross the bridge, we stop there, and she sees it, and like I said, she immediately and instantly knew what it was and recognized it.
Cool.
And became like extremely excited. But just as we've spoken about before, San Diego, that city transforms for Comic-Con. So before you even get to the convention center, as you near the Gaslamp district, you see Comic-Con, you see the cosplay, you see the adornments on all the businesses and how they change their signage and their menus and things like that.
Valets wearing capes.
Right.
Yeah,
and so, Sia sees this and it begins the excitement, right? And so as you get closer and closer, those things increase. And then, you see the all the graphics on the side of the buildings and, from all the studios and things like that. So we get there. And we walk right in the convention center, and I take her to the floor. And I actually have a video of her. It starts behind her head as she walks through the door and sees the floor for the first time, and it kind of pan around to her face just to get a reaction of seeing all of that before I take her to the rest of the floor. And because we had done Awesome Con. Mm-hmm. Which is a much smaller scale by every sense of the word. But she did have an idea that there would be a bunch of booths set up and there would be a lot of foot traffic there. But I don't think she was prepared for just the amount. But it was never really overwhelming to the point where she became uncomfortable or anything like that. Sia is...
By the time I saw her, she was in her element.
Oh, yeah. Sia's daddy's little girl, so Sia feeds off of my mood and my energy. So if I'm not excited or if I'm not anxious or worried about anything, Sia tends to feel like, well, daddy's not... riled up, so everything must be okay. Daddy's cool, so everything's cool. So just me navigating that crowd with her was never an issue. It was like I, expected. It was sensory overload. She would see stuff and, as she's seeing the Nickelodeon booth and display, her eyes blow up, but then she looks over and she sees like the Hasbro display. So she sees My Little Pony, she sees Sailor Moon, and as she's seeing the Sailor Moon display, Sailor Moon walks by, just some cosplay, and it was exciting to watch her not know where to look or go first. And
we call that Conbrad.
Yeah, she experienced Conbrad for the first time. And so I wanted to, like you mentioned earlier, I wanted to pace her, Brad, and I told her, don't worry, we're going to come back on the floor later on. We won't have to see everything right now. It's going to be impossible to see everything right now anyway, so we're just gonna walk through and just get an idea of the place. And if there's anything that you feel like you want to see or have to see, we'll make time to come back and do that. But I just wanted her to get a sense of the floor and everything like that. So we did a very brief once over and run through. I myself saw the sideshow the area and display, and I noted to myself, I have to get back and spend some time with that, because their showings this year was incredible. Like all that in-game stuff that they had, but then even like the smaller
the 110 figures,
all of those were amazing. And so
Into the Spider-Verse,
all of that.
There is a 2-pack of Black Widow running to her demise, as we know. Like, she's running towards the cliff.
Gosh.
And then behind her is the floating Red Skull.
Yeah.
Man, that's so good.
I missed that.
It's like a 2-piece, and then the bases kind of fit together.
Yeah.
It's like...
the base is
it's
like
in
the
that
grounding
110
for me.
scale, Brian. It's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Brett, you got a picture. I'm pretty sure you got a picture. You got to show Brian that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we spent probably maybe like an hour and a half on the floor just walking through. I took her after being on the actual floor. I took her on the outside of the floor, still within the convention center, that open hallway, so she could just see like all the cosplay. And that was probably Sia's favorite, outside of being in Hall H, which surprised me. Like, you ask her what was your favorite thing about the con, she's going to say Hall H, which surprised me, because I thought I had my work cut out having her be entertained for that time, right? But outside of that, she'll tell you, like, just she had so much fun looking at all the cosplay. She would call out characters and things that I would even miss or didn't know who those characters were. Like, she just had so much fun spotting the different characters and things like that. So that was really, the first day. The only thing that I had to do that day, and this is where I wanted to mention, like, that Funko booth, is I got picked in the lottery to
the only one in our group to be picked.
Yeah, to be picked for
any lottery, autographs, exclusives, anything.
Right, and so the exclusive that I got picked for was the Funko exclusives. And so this year, the only things that they had that I was interested in were, they had and this was for Sia. She watches this show called Ruby, this anime called Ruby, and so Funko coincidentally released a new pop figure for that property. And also there is this amazing set from Scott Pilgrim of the Vegan Police, and so Lisa wanted that, rightfully so, as well as I did. But I figured, well, I could kill two birds with one stone. Like, my goal was to purchase the Ruby figure, but also get the Vegan Police. So the way that it works is you sign up for the lottery. They'll notify you that you got the lottery. But the way the lottery works is, like, there's a lottery for each day. So, you can, win Thursday, you can win Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And there are time slots. So I won for Thursday at 1 o'clock, which meant that at Thursday at 1 o'clock, I report to the Funko booth, bypass an extra long, line like they used to have historically, first come, first serve type deal. I reported my time and let them know what I want to purchase, make the purchase, and be on my merry way. But like you mentioned, Brad, there were two Funko booths this year. They were on opposite ends of the exhibitors floor. And so one of the Funko booths had, it was the traditional Funko booth with all of the different, items that they had for sale. But then the one at the far end was it was an exclusive booth, but it only had like 3 items there. It had the Comic-Con toucan bird. It had a Batman exclusive, con exclusive pop, and one other figure, which I can't remember what it was. But anyway, so I had Brian, Zach, and Sia, and I said, all right, well, it's time. It's almost 1 o'clock, so let's make our way to the Funko booth. And so I get there and I look at that booth and I'm like, I think we came to the wrong booth. And, it's a trek to get through all those people to make our way down there. So we finally get there and I look at that booth and I go, I don't think we're at the right friggin' booth, because they only have these 3 items and those aren't the items that I'm looking for. So let's go all the way back to the other end. And so we make it with like 2 minutes to spare. And I asked the gentleman working the booth, I said, so, what's the process? I have the email. Do you need to see that? Like, what do you need to see in order for me to make a purchase? And he goes, well, you just come back here at 2:00. And I said, well, I got an email that says I'm supposed to be here at 1:00. And he says, well, we just ended. Are you sure it says 1:00? Because we just ended the last queue or whatever. And I was like, well, yeah. He goes, well, are you sure you're at the right booth? Are you at booth 100? He said, did your email say 100? So I pull up the email and it says, yeah. So apparently the lottery I got picked for was to buy something only at that booth on the other end. So the one of those three exclusives, the Toucan, the Batman, or that other thing I can't remember. Yeah. So you had to, in order to buy something from this booth, in order to get the Ruby and the Vegan Police, I would have to not only be picked for the lottery, but the lottery and then the booth number, whatever this was. So you can't just say, you can't be picked for a Funko and then buy something.
Yeah, there's two separate Funko.
Booth.
Right. And I actually overheard two other Comic-Con attendees try to figure out what they were up for because they're like, well, did you get this or did you get that?
We talked about this a little bit last year because last year was when they initiated this whole online portal lottery system.
So that was the first year last year?
It was last year.
Okay.
And what I like about it is it clears up a lot of the traffic around those booths because normally in years past, Funko walking around there was a nightmare. Walking around Lego or Hasbro was a nightmare.
Yep.
And by having the lottery, you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
However, 2 years going, I've entered a bunch of lotteries. Lisa's entered a bunch of lotteries. Brian and Darren have. And we've gotten one win for that thing that you didn't really want, it turns out. And so in doing the online lotteries, it sort of takes away the power of the person who wants it the most, which sounds super privileged and gross, and I'm sorry. But, like, if my goal is to go to Comic-Con and get a Hasbro thing,
then you prioritize
it. And you like that becomes your mission on Thursday. I'm going to get in that line at 2:00 in the morning, and I'm going to get that Vegan Police pop.
Yep.
And the person who gets there gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can strategize and make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't do that.
Nope.
And not only can you not do that for exclusives, you can't do it for the big autographs. So if you want to meet Frank Miller or Grant Morrison like we did last year, or this year we wanted to meet Tom King and Mitch Gerrards and get Mr. Miracle signed, we were closed down at the lottery a week before the con even started.
Yeah.
And that's a bummer.
And the thing that sucks about the Funko when having two booths is that someone may have very well wanted that collectible Toucan Pop or the Batman Pop or whatever. Right. And they have entered that lottery and didn't get it. I get it. And then I don't want that.
So that's the other thing that's happening is because of the online portals, people are going in and signing up for every lottery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just going down each, like, oh, I don't even care about Winona, or I'm going to get in the signing for that. I'm going to get in the signing for Supernatural. I'm going to get in the signing for Supergirl. And you fill it up with people who maybe don't really, like, that's not their thing.
Right.
So if your thing is one of these portals, you're out of luck.
Yeah. So I was kind of bummed out about that. And
it's not like the end of the world, but
it isn't. But I would have liked to, and Sia really isn't really super into pop, but I really would have liked to have gotten the Vegan Police for Lisa because
I was excited about it.
You were very excited about it.
I was very grateful.
And I was grateful for the fact that I got picked for that lottery. So I was like, well, this is perfect. Like, Lisa basically got in.
But I got to say, like, for the exclusive stuff, you can go on the eBay right now and get, like, the Vegan Police for a pretty good deal. It's not as fun, but that's all doable. What's not doable are the autograph situations.
Yeah. Right.
And this was the first year where they made the autograph situations part of the lottery.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
One thing we skipped on Thursday that we did do is we did trek out to the Comic-Con Museum.
How was
that? No,
that?
that was not Thursday.
Yes, it was. The 18th?
Was that Thursday? I thought that was Friday.
No, according to my phony.
Because I thought
Because Friday morning was the 90s panel, right? Which was before I interviewed Jason Mewes. Spoilers.
And that's when we did the Star Trek thing. That was on Friday. When we went to the Picard Museum.
Yes, that's right.
So, can we backtrack real quick?
Yeah.
This is the first year where they have the Comic-Con Museum. It's opening up at the end of the year, but they had like a pre-show of what the Comic-Con Museum was going to be. It was out at Balboa Park.
And this is open to the public?
Open to the public. You don't have to have a badge to go to it.
Right.
It is not close to the convention center.
Not at all.
There's no shuttle out there. So we got a lift. It cost about $10 to get there and $10 to get back. Cut out about an hour out of the day going back and forth. But this year was devoted to Batman. And it was this Batman experience that they were having at the Comic-Con Museum. And when you walk in, there's a life-size black and white statue of Todd McFarlane's new design for the line of collectibles. And they've got a big TV, and they've got Neil Adams and Gene O'Neill and people like that talking about their favorite Batman memories and the parts that they did in creating the persona of Batman. And then they had more props. They had tons and tons of costumes. Batmobiles, the giant duck from Batman Returns. They had the Mondo Batman gallery there of all the Mondo prints. But honestly, like, my favorite thing that was at the Comic-Con Museum was not Batman related at all. Off to the corner, they had a little like mini museum within the museum, and it was devoted to all the art that has gone into producing Comic-Con souvenir books for the last 30 plus years. And so they had original pieces in there from Jack Kirby and John Romita and Dave McKean.
Jim Lee.
Lee. They had, like, the new souvenir book this year is this awesome cover done by Jim Lee, where he's drawn in all your favorite comic book characters invading the convention floor.
Great. I love it.
You know, you got Turtles next to Hellboy, next to Captain Marvel, next to Black Panther, next to Wonder Woman, all done in Jim Lee style. Like,
I want a banner of that.
Yes.
Here, Darren. So if you just flip through, you can see the first one is the inks, but then you can also look at the pencil. So they would have all of that, all of the art laid out for you to see, and it's absolutely stunning.
And I love this. This is like it reminds me of the Unwrapped.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite. Yeah.
And some of this stuff was going back to like the 70s, and it's just really cool.
And so, like, that was really great to see, and it was pretty crowded with people taking photos of all the stuff. And you can go onto our social media feeds and look at all of that stuff.
And they had a little area for kids to draw their own Comic-Con covers.
So they would give children like a worksheet that was like a fake souvenir book cover, and then you do your own.
And they had those all up on the wall. They were really, really cute. And another thing that Sia, I think, would have loved was downstairs they had a display of a bunch of the winning dresses from the Her Universe fashion show.
Oh.
And so, like, one of them was like a Jack Skellington dress where the skirt was all Funko Pops. My favorite was the alien one of Ripley in the Power Loader. So all of the colors of the Power Loader and all of the logos were like on this super chic coat that I love. Yeah. There was a Shape of Water themed dress that was beautiful and green. It was really cool.
Dress, very cool. And then in the back of the basement, they had a bat cave, and they had, you know, like in The Dark Knight, you see Bruce Wayne and Alfred typing away on the computer. Yeah. They had a computer there. It was the computer from the Christopher Nolan movie projecting video games. And around the bat computer were consoles from the NES to present,
so
all showing the
Batman games?
video games throughout the years, and you could play each and every one of the Batman games. So that there I am in that photo playing on the NES original '89 Batman game.
Oh, wow.
And there was another little room where a bunch of kids were hanging out, and they had like a punching bag hanging down, and then on the punching bag they would project the faces from the Rogues Gallery, and then when kids would hit the punching bag, you'd see the big logo projected on the wall, the wham, pow,
that's cool.
And the kids were going nuts over that.
And then on the outside of the Comic-Con Museum, they had one of those iFly tubes where you could don a bat suit and hover outside. What? But when we got there just as they were closing, and we got shut out.
I wonder if Brad would be able to do it, because Brad is I mean, I doubt they have
I don't think it would fit me
for honestly. A 6, but I could have totally done it.
Yeah.
They have an iFly near.
So that was super cool. Like, I wish they had a shuttle out to Balboa Park for it, but honestly, it was worth the $20 that we spent to get out there. It was pretty interesting.
We had the world's saddest Lyft driver driving back. That dude's marriage is not going to work.
I was going to talk about that guy.
He was memorably negative.
He was from the Midwest. He hated the city. He hated driving in the city. He couldn't understand any of the Comic-Con stuff, and even if he liked it, his wife would never let him enjoy it. It was like the craziest
and it's
conversation.
funny because, like, at this point, Brad's already losing his voice, so, like, he, you know, it was on my shoulders to...
I think I said that to Lisa. I was like, you got to entertain the driver.
Yeah, so it was on my shoulders to talk. But, of course, like, either I don't talk at all or I go to the deepest place immediately. So I was like... You know, I'm sure your wife has some really wonderful qualities.
And he was like,
if you
no.
just stick it out.
I mean, it was the most brutal. I was like, is this guy putting it on for us?
I don't know.
Damn.
Maybe he's working on some kind of role.
So by the time we got done with that lift ride, Comic-Con for the day was done. That's how our Thursday
We
went.
left at like 9.
Yeah.
Like, and the floor was closed.
But like, I'm so like, I was debating whether it was worth it to go out and leave the convention center, and I'm really happy
it's
that I
super
did.
fun, and I can't wait to see. I love a pop culture museum in general. I can't wait to see it when it's completely finished.
Yeah.
Oh, they weren't even done?
No.
Oh, wow. That's dope. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Your Friday beat.
Oh, okay. So this was the day. So kind of, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit because I remember now. So before I met up with you and Sia over there by the bench in the water, that's when I went down to get the information about the Hall H line. So I was around by the tents, and there was a girl that was looking for the next day line for Friday, because I guess she wanted to like go to the Russo panel and everything for Friday. So I started following her, and so it was over there by the Peninsula. So once I got to the Peninsula, I talked to one of the guys. I said, hey, you know, what time do you line up for the next day, like if we want Saturday? He was like, well, you can start lining up. He was like, you can start lining up around midnight, but no. He said they start lining up that day at 6 a.m. And I was like, there's probably people here get here a little early.
We know how it goes.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, there's people gonna be here early. I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, all right, I should probably get here around 11 midnight around that time. So then I met up with Darren, and then I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna come back later tonight around midnight.
So like all of Friday, you were in mission mode.
Yeah, pretty much.
We didn't even see you. We talked to you via text.
Yeah.
But
That was pretty much.
Brian's running point.
Yeah. So we went back, rest up on Thursday. So to get to Friday, Darren dropped. So Zach said he wanted to sleep out as well. So I was like, all right, bet. You know, got my partner in crime. Let's go ahead and do this. So Darren dropped us off around midnight, around 11. Mm-hmm. No, it was around 11. Because this is also where we met Peter and Chris for the first time. So it was around 11. He dropped us off by the Peninsula, and then we talked to this other lady where nobody knows anything.
You would get different information from different people.
And that's
the way it always is.
That is every year.
Yeah. So
and they are changing it every year. This year, the Hall H line was way different.
So basically, they're saying, like, I can't remember what that lady said, but she was saying something about you guys can stay out, but she said you can stay out here, but you can't camp out. They won't allow you to camp out. And I was like, okay, cool. So she was like, they're going to start lining up around like 5:30 or 6 a.m. So I was like, all right, cool. So, you know, I told Zach, I was like, are you cool with that? Like, you know, we can stay out here, but we just can't camp out. And it was like, all right, cool. So Darren dropped us off. So along the rail, not on the peninsula, but on
the harbor, by the Indigo Ballroom and things like that, where normally the Hall H line already is.
Exactly. So there was about 3 or 2 different parties there. There was one guy there who was basically holding the spot for like 20 people. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, I get it, cool. Then Peter and Chris was next, and then me and Zach came behind them. And we had our chairs, and I was like, all right, bet, cool. So this is the unofficial line. So we put our chairs up, we sat down. We were there for like maybe 30 minutes to an hour, maybe. And then one of the security guys came along. It was like, hey, you guys can't be here. Like, you can't line up. And we were like, well, they told us that we can't camp out. He was like, yeah, you can't camp out, but it's like you can't line up because you can't start to form a line here. If they see you forming a line, they're going to come around and break it up. And it's like, if you don't break it up, they're going to call the police. And, you know. And,
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, they were serious. And you were like, all right. And it was like, they was like, well, can we line up down further, past the convention center? They was like, well, if you go down, then, we can't stop you from lining up. But there was already people up and down the harbor. Like they were.
So it's like zombies. Everyone's just rolling around trying to figure out what's what.
Yeah. So there's just pockets of people that are just, there's like a group sitting on the bench. There's somebody walking down there on the opposite end by IMDb boat. Then there's people down, and that's where we started to kind of line up. And so we just stood down there, and then there was like a group of people. So we kind of slept a little bit. I know Zach went to the Hilton. He went to the bathroom. I went to the Hilton, went to the bathroom. I walked out to the Gaslamp District to Subway, got some food. We had time to kill. Came back around, and Zach pretty much stayed. He just wanted to chill at the Hilton for a minute, just I guess to kind of, didn't want to be outside too much. So I was like, cool, just let me know, when you're on your way back. So it's around 5 o'clock in the morning. So, no, Zach texted me. He was like, I'm going to be back around 5:30. So I was like, all right, cool. So it was like 5 o'clock, and I'm kind of roaming back and forth. And I'm still hanging with Chris and Peter, and I'm talking to Chris, and I'm like,
new friend,
yeah, cool guy. So I'm like, it's like something don't feel right. And I was like, all right, let's start walking back up front, and we started.
In last year, they allowed you to line up and create an unofficial line.
Yeah, create a line. But now there's just people roaming up and down the harbor.
And so the theory was this year they were going to drop a flag.
Basically,
then everybody was going to just dive.
Yeah. I was like, and then the whole night I was talking to Chris. I was like, this is not going to end well. Like, you got too many people out here. And you're just going to drop a flag and expect everybody to just, like, be in order. Like, I was like, this is going to turn out ugly. So, like, I'm walking back and forth, and I'll sit down for a minute and back and forth. And so then I was like, all right, something don't feel right. So I was like, I think we need to start walking back up front. And so me and Chris start going up there. And then we see one of the guys. He was like, all right. And then we just see people just start rushing. And Zach was already with me at this point.
Like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Pretty much. So Zach was already with me at this point. He came back from the Hilton. And I saw this crowd of people, and then people behind us, and I was like, Zach, just hold on to me. I was like, I started and then we got into the crowd, and then they were like, everybody stop, like, so they funneled everybody through, like, so they kind of created this funnel and had people kind of lined up in a single file line. And we were pretty close. I lost Chris and Peter. And I told Zach, I said, just hold on to my book bag. We were getting there, and then we got through. And I was like, all right. So it was a good spot. But, of course, they had the 5-to-1 rule, which one person, for every person, you could hold a space for 5 people.
So when we got there that morning, like 2 hours after that, probably, we came to meet you first, and there was probably, I don't know, like 500 people in front of you.
Yeah, it was only like a few hundred. Yeah. I would say maybe 300 at most.
And that became 2,000 people.
It felt like that.
Because you have to multiply that by 5.
I know, but you can't, you have to assume that it's 1 for every 5, but every single person.
And I'm fine with that. Like, none of that bothers me.
Yeah.
What bothers me is the chaos that they create by dropping the flag.
Exactly, and that was the whole thing with me, because we were out there at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and we were like one of the first people in line.
There was a weirder vibe this year amongst the crowds. Yeah. You would talk to people like, people were complaining about like, attendance is not that high. You can walk right into Ballroom 20. We experienced that. When we wanted to go to the exhibit hall, we got great, spot. We got there on Thursday, 5 a.m., and we were like at the escalator. Okay. We were like front row to go into the exhibit hall, practically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We caught the first.
But then by 9:30 when the doors opened, the line was crazy like normal. So there was like a much more relaxed vibe on that first day.
Yeah.
But because Marvel was returning, and Marvel was returning after unleashing Avengers Endgame upon the world, the anxiety to get into Hall H on Saturday was higher than I've ever experienced it, and tensions were really high.
And also, there was a lot more rules, and when you add rules, that creates a sense of scarcity.
It does.
So people feel like people are trying to take things from them.
So they created a mob rush on Brian.
Basically. And I felt good when I first got there until the guy was like, you guys can't line up. I was like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. And then like closer it got to like 5 o'clock. And then they said they weren't going to drop the flag till 6 a.m. They ended up dropping the flag around like 5:40. And that's why I felt like, all right, we need to start like making our way back.
And where you were was on the peninsula, which was not by the IMDb boat where it normally is. So you're like out on this nice island area, which actually was pretty darn comfortable.
Nice. It's
great place to sleep out on.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. So I kind of feel bad, especially when I make certain connections with people. So like me and Zach made it through, and Chris and Peter got stuck in the mob. But since we were hanging all night, like when they came through, I said, "Look, you guys get right in front." And I was like,
they were totally cool too. I love talking to them.
Yeah, and they were really appreciative. They was like, "Look, man, if you guys need us to hold spots for some people in your crew."
Well, they did not know, but they now each represented 5 people in our group.
Exactly, and that was like my plan. I was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, man," because I was waiting. Because I was talking to Darren.
Because we were getting like midnight texts of frantic Brian.
Yeah, because so I was sending stuff to the ItmaCon family thread that we have on Facebook, letting everybody know the updates, and then I was texting with Darren, and Darren called me, said, "Look, do I need to get Sia up? Like, what time do I need to be there? Blah blah this and that." And I was like, "What if because one of the guys said, I was like, what's up with this 5-1 rule?" He was like, "We're honoring that, but we're not like, we're not putting that out there, but we will honor that." I was like, all right, cool. So I was like, I was doing head counts. I was like, well, we got 15 people, so we need to have at least 3 people here.
Nobody was really enforcing it.
Yeah.
Like, it was fine. It was like every year. And again, I don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah. And then making friends with Chris and Peter, I was like, all right, so we're cool. That's why I called Darren. I was like, look, you and Sia chill. We got it. Aisha, Miriam, and Fatima said that they'll be here like around 6 or 7. Oh, and Omar. I was texting with Omar too because he had a little trouble finding everybody, but he ended up making it there as well. So I was texting with Omar a little earlier in the night because Aisha gave me his number. He's like to text with him and find out. So I was letting him know. So I was in correspondence with everybody trying to make sure
I would crack under that kind of pressure.
You did great, Brian. You were awesome. And I know you're like a little disappointed that we didn't end up being in Group A.
Yeah.
But like Group B is great, and we had awesome seats.
We really did end up having some great seats. So
and we had a great time.
And
I told you that I was gonna. I said once we get in there and Marvel and we're in the throes of whatever magic's gonna happen, this experience will be like the furthest thing from your mind.
Exactly.
And honestly, even before getting into Hall H, the line wait. Because that Friday we did a lot of like rotating out.
Yeah.
Lisa and I came. You went back to the hotel with Zach.
Yeah.
We took a good chunk of the morning shift on Friday. Like I had so much fun in this crazy geek tailgate party that we have created.
Yeah.
Like this was without a doubt my favorite Hall H line wait because we met new people.
Yeah.
Old fam returned.
Yeah.
I had completely blown out my voice. But I still had like an awesome time.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So yeah, so Omar had a little trouble finding us. So Aisha, Miriam, and Fatima got there first. So we were like, all right, you guys take over. I'm tired. Zach was done. He was done. He was like, yeah, as soon as they get here, I was like, dude, don't worry. Like, as soon as they get here, we're gone. We're on the first shuttle back. he was like, all right. He's like, yeah, because I need to get some sleep. I was like, cool. So when they came, we left. We had for the shuttle. I don't know. Were you guys still in the room when we got back?
Yes.
I think you guys were.
Yeah.
Because me and Zach came back. I don't even know what happened. All I know is I went to sleep. I came back to the convention center like maybe 2-3 o'clock.
You came back right before we had to leave because Lisa and I had to go do the Jason Mewes interview at 1. So you came back around 12:30.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was a little bit early.
Because Sia and I were, because you brought Sia's cosplay out there, so I could change her into
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it was around midday, and I went on the floor a little bit, but mostly spent the time in the line and meeting back up with Scott and everybody and conversing, and that was pretty much it until we were waiting to get our wristbands, which was, I'll let somebody else take that one over. Because that was crazy.
That was crazy.
Well, let's talk about Lisa's insane Friday.
Okay,
What'd you do?
We get there at about 5:30, and we're all sitting around and chatting, and Brad's voice is getting worse and worse. And so we have that Jason Mewes interview that day, and he was like, Lisa, if my voice doesn't come back, you're going to have to do this alone. You're going to have to do the Jason Mewes interview by yourself. Now, we had watched the film the night before, and I was planning on doing a tandem interview, so I kind of had ideas for questions, but I don't know if you guys have noticed my strat, but in interviews, I like to hang back until I have a super brilliant idea. I throw that question out. Suddenly, I'm the smartest person in the room. But really, I'm just predatory and just waiting for everybody else to sound dumb. Then I'm the hero, right? Because they all came super prepared. So I'm like, Brad, no more talking. Shut it down. And so I'm like trying to I can be a little bit shy, especially at first. But I'm like, I'm putting on the Lisa show. And I'm conversing with everybody so Brad doesn't talk. But
Lisa had panels she wanted to go to.
And everybody, we got onto the conversation of everybody telling sob stories about the panels that they had missed. Oh. And it started freaking me out because at 11:30 is the Veronica Mars panel. I'm a huge Veronica Mars fan. I was wearing my Veronica Mars t-shirt. I was like, I want to make this panel. So as the time ticks by and we're telling these sob stories, I'm getting more nervous and more nervous. So finally, Aisha was telling a story about a panel that she missed, and I'm like, I gotta go. I have a panel. And so I storm off to Ballroom 20. There's a long line.
No. It was not like it was the day before.
And I totally got in, and I had great seats. But I got to catch the panel before. And the panel before was another Sci-Fi Wire panel, and it was called...
This is the 90s nostalgia one?
Yeah. Oh, it came from the 90s. And the moderator was Dave Holmes, who he was actually a VJ on MTV back in the 90s.
I remember
right,
Dave
because
Holmes,
he was the guy who won the contest.
Who won that contest. I remember him. Okay.
I know him because he pops up as a podcast guest a lot of the times because he's now a stand-up. And so...
Every time you mention Dave Holmes, I kept thinking, is that the same VJ from MTV?
Yes.
Really? So he's wow.
Yeah. And he has a new podcast. Oh, I forget what it is. But he's a gay man. And so he has a new podcast where he talks to gay people about wonderful gay things. I wish I could remember what it was about, what it's called. But it's wonderful. But he was moderating. And then on the panel was Orlando Jones, who's always wonderful. Yeah. Jonah Ray from Nerdist fame. He's now on MST3K. He's the new Joe or whatever the guy's name is.
Joel.
Lisa,
Joel.
I'm so young. Melania Weintraub, who is a writer and a super cute, funny lady. Eliza Skinner, who's a stand-up, and Maude Garrett.
Oh, yeah, Maude Garrett.
I don't know what she's an Australian lady.
Yeah, she's Australian. I like her. She was...
Collider. She was with Collider
She was on
for a while.
Collider for a while.
She's a friend of Alicia Malone.
Yeah, they're best friends.
And then the last guest was Jason Mewes.
Yeah.
Who I was going to interview later. And unlike the Great Debate, this panel was not so great.
No.
And it was very awkward because I didn't get the sense that they had prepped at all. So Dave Holmes would just ask these questions, and then these people would just be scrounging their brains for things from the 90s. And it's like, I know, I sympathize with them because I'm not one of those people. I'm not Brad who can just all of a sudden list everybody by their name and remember the titles to everything. I'm like the person who's like, Brad, just finish my sentence, please. So it was very awkward, and it seemed the most awkward for Jason Mewes. Oh. And I was like, no, this is not going to go well because they were going like, Jason Mewes, what do you remember from the 90s? And we know what he was doing in the 90s, drugs. So he doesn't remember anything. And he's doing the best he can, but he like, you know, like at one point they were like talking about like 90s TV and if they could like come, like if you were to mash up 2 90s TV shows, what would you mash up? And Jason Mewes came up with Buffy the Vampire Slayer plus Saved by the Bell, which sounds amazing. But then Dave Holmes asked some follow-up questions, and he's like, I don't know. He immediately backed right down.
No.
So I was like, oh, no, Jason Mewes, super shy, closed off. Like, you know, I'm going to have to come up with 7,000 questions because we're supposed to have 30 minutes with him. And so I just started panicking. And I'm like, this is not going to go well. So then the Veronica Mars panel started, and it started with, so Veronica Mars is coming back on Hulu.
I don't know.
And I love the original Veronica Mars. Yeah. I skipped the Kickstarter movie because it didn't look very good, and I just found it too painful. I had read half of one of the novels. You'll hear when I talk to Jason Mewes that I tell him that I read both of the novels. I don't know why I was trying to impress him with how much I read. But yes, so I really hadn't kept up. But I watched that first episode, and it was pretty great. Yeah. Like, clearly things happened in the movie, but I was able to, like, put the pieces together. Yeah. She's still living in the same place. She's working for her dad. Some of our favorite characters come back. Logan's back. Mac is back. So, and it was super funny and, like, not at all forced. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. Okay. But when the actual panel started, when like Kristen Bell and the whole cast comes out, I flip out and I'm like, I'm flipping out over this Jason Mewes interview, and I was like, I can't sit through this, so I left. So I didn't stay for the panel that I left the line for.
So much.
I am a huge worry
and she does not need to.
So I come back to the line.
And I've been talking the entire time.
So Brad has no voice, and he's like, you're doing this interview. And I was like, oh, no. So I start feverishly writing questions and flipping out. And then we went.
At 1 o'clock, we left the Hall H line to go to the Marriott to hang out in the lobby so Lisa could finish doing her notes. And they had like a Nintendo Switch display that they were showing off some Nintendo Switch stuff. Yeah. I don't care about any of that. They had a guy in a Mario costume. That's what I was there for. So I was like, I have no voice, but I'm going to go communicate with this guy that I want a photo with him. And then so I got my photo with
Brad
Mario.
waited in line with all of the 7-year-olds and their parents.
It was great.
I tried to join the line with him, and he's like, no, you sit down and work.
I didn't want you to lose our seat. We had a really good seat in the lobby.
We did. So I did have enough time to come up with a bunch of questions and color code them. So I was in full-on Lisa mode with preparedness.
So we then went up to his suite. We were met with his publicists.
Super nice.
Super nice. Like all the way up on like the 24th floor or something like that. And we went in, and he wanted to do the interview out on his balcony, which overlooked the marina.
It was really sweet.
Gorgeous.
You didn't tell me that.
It was it was an amazing suite.
Yeah.
And two, he had an
we could
awesome
probably
view.
see you in line.
I know, right?
We were looking right over there.
For sure. We were looking right out over the peninsula.
Wow, that's so cool.
He asked us if we were taking video, and then we're like, no, it's just audio. But then I was like, we could have totally brought Brian.
It's all good.
We're dumb.
No.
Next year, though.
Yeah, let me know. I'm down.
And so we did the interview, and this Wednesday you can listen to Lisa talk to Jason Mewes on the ItMod Chatcast.
Yeah.
All of my worries were, of course, he was a super nice guy. I think I went a little bit more inside the actor's studio than he was like necessarily ready to go, because it's a super personal film. Yeah. That was scripted by people that were not him.
So it may appear to be a super personal film, but it might just be another character that he's playing.
Yeah. You know? So
it's interesting. You should listen to the interview. He does some evasion on Lisa, which is a lot of fun.
Because I'm like a terrier. I come right back to the question.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, do you see these questions, Jason Mewes? I'm asking all of them.
And you can tell that Lisa's like a little nervous on that first question because it starts with like conversation around Lisa's shirt and Veronica Mars and fandom and all this stuff. And then Lisa starts to go like, I feel like I really want to talk to you. All these personal questions. And she starts to ask them a question. and it doesn't quite like connect with him. And then Lisa goes, okay, let's get to the serious questions. I love that moment. Well, let's get to the questions. He's like, okay, yeah.
Because I was just like, this is this is a great movie. It's a great conversation stimulator, but it might cause people to want to ask personal questions.
We were trying to figure out what his comfortability was. It turns out he didn't really want to get that personal.
Yeah, but
it's
I think
fascinating.
we go there.
It's fascinating. Go to the ItMod Chatcast feed. It's a totally different feed than this one. Subscribe to that and listen to it.
So is this exclusively on ItMod Chatcast, or was this part of FSR, or how?
Oh, so it was with FSR. Like, that's what got us through the door.
Gotcha.
But I was like, hey, if we're doing this interview, I'd also like to do it for the podcast, and they agreed.
They were
with that.
totally cool
They were
with
totally
that.
cool with that.
Nice.
And what we're gonna do is on Wednesday you can listen to it on the ItMod Chatcast feed, and then I was like, well, it's also comic book related, so I also put it in the feed for comic book couples.
We're cross pollinating.
Yeah.
Cool.
We
Getting
want all
subscribers
our
ever.
listeners to join together.
It's a network, man. It's a network.
Yeah. But it's a really wild and surreal conversation.
Cool.
Right. And then what did we do after that? That's when we went to the
Picard First Duty Museum over at the Michael J. Wolff art gallery.
You said duty.
I did say duty. They said duty first. I didn't laugh about it. But it's from a quote that Picard has. And they had, like, in last year at that same art gallery, they had, Star Trek Discovery props and costumes and all that kind of stuff. And they had costumes this year, but of course they don't want to reveal too much about the show. This was before Hall H when they showed the trailer. Yeah. So most of the props that they had there were either from, The Next Generation or the movies. They had one costume from the new Picard show. And then they had like these made up props, like these awards that Picard has won throughout his years. These medals from the Academy and the medals from the Federation. Yeah. And then they had like props from the show as well. Like
they had wine bottles with labels from the Chateau Picard.
It was pretty cool. And if you head on over to treknews.net, you can see the gallery that Lisa and I put together.
I love his like dress down casual outfit. I would totally wear that. It's
for
like
Picard, his new show.
Yeah, it's like this cool olive jacket with a
But I like how the
sweater
last
and
couple of years, Star Trek has taken over that art gallery.
Yeah.
In years past, it's also been like a Batman art gallery. It's been a Conan O'Brien art gallery.
They have some original Data art that
cool.
apparently Picard hangs in his home.
Yeah.
That's really
It's very cute. It's very cute. And it was a nice primer for what we were ultimately going to see in Hall H the next day. But then we came back from that. We ran into Orlando Jones moderating a sci-fi wire parade down the gas lamp.
Yeah, he was
That's cool.
leading it, and he was dancing, and he was just like so in his element.
He was dancing and he was singing, and he had a whole giant like high school band parade behind him.
We should all be so lucky as to be as happy as Orlando Jones at Comic-Con. That is like bliss level 11.
And we slowly made our way back to the Hall H line, but we took our time and we snapped a lot of photos. The gas lamp and the offsites this year were better than last year, I felt. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. What about you for Friday, B?
I mean, that was it. I mean, Lisa and I, again, we shared like the same exact experience.
Okay. For myself and the little one, we got out around, I want to say 10, maybe. We went back to the convention center like around 10. Oh, but we stopped at we did a lot of the outdoor. She wanted to see and walk past a lot of the outdoor activations, so we did that, and then we made our way to the line, and we met Chris and Peter and everyone else. I finally got to meet up with Scott and Aaron and Amber and Kale, and so we hung out there for a while. And then when Brian joined us, I called him, texted him, and asked him to bring. See his cosplay, because I wasn't sure about like the weather, because the weather was beautiful, but because she was cosplaying as Moana and we were near the water, I was curious to see what the weather was going to be like closer to the water.
Got pretty chilly at times.
Too chilly, yeah. But with the sun being out, that kind of evened things out for her, because I kept asking her prior to Brian coming. I was like, are you okay out here? Are you too cold? Are you sure you want to cosplay? Because you're not going to have your sweater on. She was like, no, I'm good. So Brian brought the cosplay out. We changed her into that. And she was really excited to do that, because like I said, she loved seeing everyone else cosplay. So it just made her even more excited to just join and be a part of that. So, once we changed her into that, she wanted to go into the convention center and walk around and be amongst the other cosplayers. So we went back on the floor. And
she was Moana. Did you mention that?
She was Moana. Yeah, I took her hair out. Because she has hair just like Moana, like when you take it out, it's super long. So we had some fun walking around on the floor, and then really we came back outside. We did the outdoor activations where the shuttles.
Where they had a giant Shark Week and a Twilight Zone thing this year.
Yeah, the Twilight Zone thing.
Yeah, the interactive zone.
Yeah, we went over there,
Okay,
and then we made our way back to the line because we wanted to be there for when the wristbands were given out.
Wristbands.
Like that. Well, for me. It seemed like it got kind of crazy out there, but we got our wristbands, no problem. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking back on years prior when they come down the line and start handing out wristbands, and it typically gets like everyone gets excited and is bunched up and has their hand out, and it seems like it's chaotic. But I think I feel like at the very least, because we got ours without a hitch, I feel like it went off without a hitch. Granted, it's just a lot.
There were some extra steps added because now they do the wristband plus the RFID code.
Right.
And if you think they started passing out wristbands at like 10, and we were like in the beginning of the line, and they didn't get to us until like 11:15. So I have I can't imagine what time they were done passing out wristbands.
Wow.
And the environment was tense.
It was chaotic because there was a big ruckus about people cutting in line on the backside.
Yeah, they set up some roadblocks and some wire, like razor wire, to make sure no one would cut from the other side.
It got intense. It wasn't razor wire.
It wasn't razor wire. It was like that yellow fishing line.
The cord that they've used in years past. Brad is an artiste.
I was joking.
It's crazy though because I don't know. Well, I guess everybody was there at that time, but the group behind us who cussed that one guy out that was trying to get and that was trying to cut, and I was like, because I didn't know what was going on.
It got some real street justice going on.
Yeah.
Like I agree with Darren. I don't want to sell it like, oh my God, it was a nightmare and chaos, and people were getting into fist fights and stuff.
No,
but it was more tense than years past.
It was
because of Marvel returning and because of them changing the system and. There was a lot of like animosity of people in the B group who felt like they should be in the A group around, even in our group, like Scott was like, we shouldn't be here. We should be over there. It's hey, don't worry. Darren, Brian, Lisa, and I, we know everything's going to be fine because once you're here, you're going to get a B band or an A band or a C band.
And you're going to get in.
E bands and F bands. And guess what? It's still a good seat. Yeah. Like it's still a good time in Hall H.
Yeah.
But like people get like all heightened and energized, and because they were changing things, like you were saying, Brian, like it caused like a little more friction. But we got our bands, and once you got the wristbands, everybody calmed down.
Right, and we got the wristbands, and then we were escorted into the chutes. Well, actually, no. Then Brad and I, we went back to because we were going to be the ones taking the night shift.
Yeah.
So
we went back. We showered, did all that stuff. We came back in time to be moved into the chutes. Yeah. But now this time they have set up a fence around Hall H.
Yes.
The Hall H line.
Yes.
And metal detectors.
So to get in, you had to go through security.
Yeah.
Which was another wrinkle that they put in.
Yeah.
So we stayed out until you came back.
Right.
Yeah.
So once we got in,
we didn't get back till about midnight.
Yeah. Like, it was sad because Kale was excited to like sleep out. He's a teenager, and so he's like, "Yay, let's camp out atmosphere."
He brought his dice. He thought we were going to play a D&D game.
And all of us old people, me and Brad and Chris and Peter, were like, "Good night," and then we just went right to sleep. I felt so bad, but it was so late.
Yeah.
And I think because of the fence and the security, you don't get those surprise cameos from Andy Serkis and the Star Trek crew. Yeah. So it was pretty much just sleeping. So we slept. It was nice. I got plenty of rest. People started rolling back in. Aisha and Miriam and Fatima brought us Starbucks for sleeping outside.
But like because of the fence, right? There were no porta potties or anything within the Hall H line. So
except for inside the convention center.
So you had to go to the convention center through like a little bit of security to go there, but you couldn't go to the Hilton like usual.
Yeah.
Without having to go back through security.
Exactly.
Right.
Which
so,
at like 2:00 in the morning is not a big deal.
Lucky for me, like I had been dehydrating all day. I was dry like a raisin. I was not going to be urinating overnight.
I had to take a dump.
Brad did not plan as well. But you just went into the convention center?
The convention center around like 3:00, 4:00 in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then, you guys were coming back at 7:00. But guess what? Everybody was coming back into the line. Because the way it works is like you select the people who are going to sleep out overnight. And then the rest of your group
joins you in the
joins
morning.
in. So if you've got 4 people like we do sleeping out, then you've got 20 people total coming. So that experience times, 6,000 people.
All having to go through security.
Yeah.
And opening their bags.
And then they go, you can't leave the tent to go to the bathroom without having to go through security again.
Exactly.
Which meant that we did not have access to a restroom without going and waiting in line for 2 hours to get back in.
Eventually saw very quickly the error of their ways, and certain groups of security started changing the rules.
So they started handing out bathroom passes that were Indigo Ballroom passes.
Oh, okay.
But they were giving them to us to use the restroom inside. And
Not telling the people inside.
So the people inside, we were handing these passes to them, and they're like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Whoop, 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 whoop.
And then
I was like, I got in right as the confusion was beginning, so I got in and out of the bathroom, kind of like, and they were taking the passes back, and so I like distracted them and kept my pass because I was like, "What if they want to see my pass to let me back in the Hall H line?" Yeah.
And that confusion only lasted about 30 minutes.
But Peter went after me, and they were stopping people and going like, "You can't do this," and stuff like that. So that was a little.
They eventually figured it out.
Yeah.
But it was weird this year. It was
really, really weird.
Still fun though.
Yep. But like we got into Hall H, no problem. Like we said, super great seats, and now it's Saturday.
Here's the trick to this.
Yeah.
Remain calm, everyone. You will get in.
Yeah, I was calm. I mean,
no, Brian was great. Brian was disappointed.
Is the only one who gets to be disappointed because Brian put the time in. Nobody else gets to be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, even Saturday morning, because I was with you, the line to go back through security, I was like, oh man, because I just didn't know how that, and it started to move pretty swiftly.
Bad at all.
At the end of the day, everything works out.
Yeah.
But like with the confusion, you get all angsty. The trick is remain calm.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
I was enjoying a latte. I was happy.
and we got in with our 8 seats. Yeah. So that was our Friday.
So we were in the front. Like we ended up in the. So there's like the very front, the first section. Mm-hmm. We were in the front of the second section. So we weren't behind the big screens. Mm-hmm. So that was really cool because we had a really great shot of the big screen in the back over the people who were on stage, which I think if you're not in front row, we were in the second best spot.
Yeah.
Especially like Brad and I ended up on the aisle, which was nice because we had to do the coverage because we were doing the live tweeting.
I just wanted the aisle because my legs are long.
Yeah, and he has long legs. Yeah. But we were also doing the coverage for Trek News as well, so we needed a primo spot for pictures.
Yeah, I think all of us were able to get good seats. I mean, you guys were over there. I think Miriam and Omar
were behind us.
And Julius, his friend Julius, was there. And
Julius was cool too.
He was a cool guy.
And it was his first Comic-Con.
His first
so
one.
He had good energy.
Yeah, I talked to him in line. So he was like trying to figure this whole thing out, and I was trying to explain to him everything as far as how everything works. But yeah, I mean, where you guys were, and then we were kind of in the middle because I know you talked about where you wanted to sit in the middle to kind of have a better vantage point of the screen with the panel as well. Yeah. So I think we all had pretty good seats.
It was fine. It was perfect. Like I had no complaints because at the end of the day, it's once the panels start, once the experience starts, if it's a good panel, then you're captivated with that. But then like definitely with Marvel and the production, like once that happens, like everything else just fades away. everything else fades away. So let's talk about the panels on Saturday, because you outside of Marvel, you were excited for the Star Trek.
Yeah, and Star Trek
panel.
brought a lot this year.
They did.
So
They did.
it's began with the Star Trek Discovery cast members and producers coming out and talking about the third season and how the third season is going to be strange, because at the end of the second season, spoilers, the crew of Discovery go 1,000+ years into the future. So where they end up is a version of the Federation, or maybe there is no Federation. It is a version of the future of Star Trek that we have never seen before. And that's exciting. That's it's mysterious. They had some shots, no real footage, but they had some promotional stills and images and to talk about what the environments might look like and a few of the new characters. They did also bring footage of the short treks, the little short films that are going to lead into season 3. And what the short treks look like to be primarily are episodes focused around the Enterprise crew that was left behind at the end of second season. So Pike and Number One and Spock, played by oh my gosh, Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, and Ethan Peck.
Wait, so they're not in the future?
No, they're not going to be in the third season with the rest of them.
All?
No, they're left behind. So they're only going to be in the short treks.
Oh shit!
Now there was some rumors, some conversation, some loose promises from showrunner Alex Kurtzman of possibly getting an Enterprise spin-off show. Like CBS All Access, they want it to be the Star Trek streaming network. They're bringing a lot of Star Trek to audiences. And it's going to be a wide variety of stuff, as we're about to talk about.
And another interesting thing with the short treks is there's now going to be 2 animated short treks.
Yeah.
And one of them is going to be directed by Michael Giacchino, the composer.
That's what I was thinking of. Yes.
All right.
And then speaking of animated, they brought out the showrunner and producers and voice cast of the new Star Trek animated series Lower Decks, which is like a Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
Because it's Mike McCann.
Yeah, from Rick and Morty, a version of Star Trek. And so it's very comedic, and the basic premise is we're following a crew on a ship that is not important to any Federation business. And it's like the dregs of Starfleet.
So it's supposed to be, like somebody called it, the Downton Abbey of Star Trek. It's the lower...
the downstairs.
Yeah.
So, like, and like the footage is very, or like they didn't show footage, but they showed animation
what the characters
stills.
would look like and a little bit of a description.
Very Cartoon Network. Unlike anything you've seen in Star Trek. And the humor is unlike anything you've seen in Star Trek. So purists might feel a little uncomfortable. I agree with Mark McCann about how if you want Star Trek to survive another 50 years, you need to get into kids' hands. You need to get into audiences that normally wouldn't touch the stuff. Because Star Trek has a reputation of being like, Trekkies and,
nerds.
Nerdy and dense and impossible to penetrate for new viewers. And, Lower Decks is going to be very easy for people to jump on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they were doing with Star Trek Discovery Season 1. And they succeeded there. They caused a little concern with some folks, but I think for the most part it worked. I'm optimistic about Lower Decks. What about you, Lisa?
I'll watch it. I'm not a big animated
You weren't
person.
super into it.
No.
What about you guys? You're the audience that they're trying to capture.
I'll check it out.
Lower Decks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of talked to you a little bit about that. I didn't know really how I felt because I'm not a big fan of like Rick and Morty or that style of animation. So I mean, it seems like inconsequential to the actual canon of Star Trek. But I do think you're right. I think it is a way to bring in a new audience because, like you say, if you want Star Trek to last another 50 years, you have to try to bring in a new audience, kids and people who haven't been into some of the previous series. And this is a good start to doing something
and some,
like that.
There's Orville and things like that. People have already started doing comedic spins on Star Trek anyway.
Exactly.
So they might as well do it underneath the brand.
Yeah.
But you know what's going to bring more new audience members than anything else to Star Trek is the Picard show.
Yeah, that does look good.
And they showed that trailer.
They threw together the most exciting trailer. I could not believe it because I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, well, Picard is retired. So are we just going to be watching an old man farm?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Come on, Lisa.
Not the case.
No.
But it was so beautiful to see all of Hall H lose their shit for Sir Patrick Stewart.
Amazing.
Because you got to think, since Picard has left us, since Star Trek Nemesis, which was in the early aughts, he's done all of X-Men.
Yeah.
And he's gained a massive following through those movies.
Absolutely.
And now he's coming back, and he's going to bring some of those X-Men fans with him to Picard.
And on the panel, he really came... he just seems so genuine and so sweet. He started his introduction with some lines from Picard. He's like, I was practicing my lines for Monday's shoot, and just something really stood out to me. And the quote was this: "We never know, do we, when our last moment will be?" But then he's like, "But for me, this feels more true. We never know, do we, when our best moment will be."
I don't know why. When he said that,
I got choked up.
It almost. I started to tear. I started to tear up. I was like, "Oh my God, Sir Patrick, what are you doing to me?"
And then they show that footage, and it's mind blowing. And suddenly Data's there, and 7 of 9 is there, and so all the Trekkies are losing their mind.
Cube.
There's a Borg Hugh is in it. It's nuts, but it's also really compelling to somebody who really knows nothing about Star Trek. As if you talk to our con fam, people are like, "Well, what do I need to know to get into the show?" And clearly, I don't think you need to know much.
Okay.
But I am putting together a top 10 list for Film School Rejects of the top 10 Picard episodes of Next Generation. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
Yeah, but Aisha was going now I need to get CBS All Access, and I feel like I've just been the lone apologist. I was like, everybody join CBS All Access.
And what I loved is he gets done with that trailer, and he goes, "Okay, Hall H, we're going to play it again. But this time, I need you all to be quiet.
Shut up.
And observe what you're watching, because I think you missed a lot of interesting stuff. So we're going to play it again, but shh." And what happens for the first time in Hall H ever?
Everybody
really quieted down to watch that
silent.
second trailer.
Yeah.
They've done trailers on repeat in the past, but this was the first time where everyone was like, "Sir Pat, he's telling us to be quiet. We're going to be quiet." But again, like Lower Decks, I want to go to you two. What did you think of the Star Trek Picard footage? And will you watch the show?
Well, I'll answer your question by commenting on that moment when he asked Hall H to be quiet and they listened. I think half of the reason why they listened and were actually quiet is because it's Sir Patrick Stewart and the respect and reverence they have for him. But another reason why I think they listened to him was because that footage was so compelling, and that trailer, like you mentioned, Lisa, it was cut very well. The footage was incredible, the score, the mood, just what it implied, and I feel like it, like you mentioned, people who the thing that's going to get people into Star Trek that aren't into it is Picard, and based on that trailer, I feel like. I'm one of those people like Aisha, our Khan family member. She, like you mentioned, she said, "Okay, I'm all aboard. I don't know anything about this, but I want to know." And I remember while I was watching it, and because we have discussions all the time, and you're just like, "Darren, you gotta, I want you to love Star Trek as much as I love it." And I remember thinking, when we were in Hall H and everyone was responding to that trailer, I knew going in before that trailer rolled, not everyone in that hall were Star Trek fans and people who were
most of them there were from Marvel,
right? But I could tell that trailer was working because at the end everyone in there lost their shit, and again when he said be quiet, there are things you missed. Everyone in there wanted to see that trailer again to see if there were things that they missed because they were compelled by that trailer. And so I was one of those people. And that trailer, it surprised me because going into that morning, I was just, that Star Trek panel was just another panel that I was going to have to get through to get to Marvel. And the Discovery stuff was fine. I was just more entertained and surprised by just the energy of the cast, particularly Sonequa Martin Green.
She's so awesome.
She's so cool.
Her enthusiasm was just infectious. And curious about the Lower Decks. I don't think I knew anything about that going into it, but once that Picard panel started, firstly, seeing Patrick Stewart back on that stage again, but then how the hall received him. But like once that footage started, I was looking at it, and me being coming from a very visual place, I was firstly surprised and impressed by the quality of that show and how it looked.
They spent a lot of money. Like,
yes.
Disco looks nice,
yes.
but they are spending even more on Picard.
And it shows. And so, with what we saw, coupled with how the panel spoke of, what to expect and, how they were excited and what they were looking forward to as far as presenting to the audience and things like that, I felt like that panel worked in regards to, garnering interest where previously there may not have been any or as much. So for me, I'm actually looking forward to seeing it, just to see like, okay, does the show live up to the promise of the trailer? Because the trailer is great.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, for me, it goes back to, will I be able to connect or get into it not knowing a lot of the previous source material? Almost the same way, like it's kind of difficult for me to get into comics. It feels a bit intimidating, not being a diehard Trekkie, so to speak.
Brian, come to me.
I know.
Let me give you a list of both comics and Star Trek episodes.
Absolutely. I need to, definitely. But watching that trailer, it definitely, and going by what you were saying, like you should be able to go directly into the series and not feel lost. And I would think that a lot of showrunners and shows nowadays are trying to create these shows that satisfy the hardcore fans and also bring in new viewers who don't feel like they need to know a lot of that canon.
But the cast really does seem to have like two parts to it. Mm-hmm. So you do have the classic characters. You have Picard and Data and Riker's coming back.
Yeah, Troy's
Deanna
coming back.
Troy's coming back. Yeah. But then there is this whole new cast.
Absolutely.
And the news story seems to be, at least for this first season, centered around this prophet character named Doge, who hasn't existed before. Added to the cast is Alison Pill from Scott Pilgrim,
I love her.
Michelle Hurd, Evan Evangoria. So there's a whole new cast who gets to know Picard with you, I feel.
True. That new cast is the new audience's entry into...
Yeah, I think that's the gateway into it. So it looks incredible. I thought the footage looked incredible. And, I mean, Sir Patrick,
he has so much faith in this project. He seems really excited about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he seems to have a certain amount of control over it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
It's promising.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That was a great panel to start our day.
Yep.
Right. And then we went into the animation.
No, then it was Westworld.
Oh yeah, Westworld.
Yes.
Season 3.
Yes.
I haven't watched
How
the show
many
yet.
fucks do we give?
Oh,
I give 2.
2 fucks?
Currently 0.
Yeah, I'm straight out. I'm straight out of them.
All right.
The first season is so good. And for whatever reason, I could not get through the second season. I haven't finished it. I know Darren really enjoyed it, and I need to push on. And based on the footage I saw of the third season, I need to go back and complete that second season.
Well, I've made a commitment to go and try to watch the first 2 seasons.
Now that Game of Thrones is done, Brian.
I know, true that. True. I mean, there's a lot. But see, we were talking about this in line. I know me, Darren, and Aisha, because you guys were talking about season 2, episode 8.
Oh my
specifically
God.
about that. And, and I've heard mixed things about season 2. I've heard season 1 is great. But because it's still freshly, relatively a new show, I was like, okay, I could probably catch up and binge this real quick. So I'm going to make a commitment to watch that. But there's so many shows I've missed out on. I haven't watched Stranger Things. It's a lot. But
I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah,
I would watch Westworld before you invest in Stranger Things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you would get more out of it.
So I'll definitely do that. But I've heard mixed things, as far as timelines and stuff like this. And
don't
see it for yourself. Judge for yourself.
I'll do that.
I think that in terms of putting together a great panel, I feel like Westworld panel has fumbled 2 years in a row because they make the mistake of getting a super fan as the moderator.
They had Reggie Watts for
last
season
year,
2,
and
Reggie Watts was there last year.
Yes,
God
he was moderating, and I
love Reggie Watts.
I love Reggie Watts as a moderator. He was the worst, or second worst, because this year it was futurist Amy Webb.
that you're absolute. Because I thought that's the reason that panel sucked for me. Is because she could not get a handle of that. Because Aaron Paul, I love Aaron Paul, but my God, man, like he was like diverting every question.
Like, she was trying to be like super serious, as if she was in room 7AB. She was asking questions that were nitty gritty that Lisa would love. Yeah. But this is Hall H, and Hall H can't deal with those kind of questions.
And to me, it was all things like, well, what's going to happen with this or this storyline? And they're like, well, we can't tell you anything.
I was like, did nobody prep her? Like, did nobody prep the panel?
Yeah.
I guess not.
I felt like Tessa Thompson is a goddess, as per usual.
God, she is.
She is so great. I got some wonderful quotes for the Twitters from her, but
Jeffrey Wright was good too.
I love Jeffrey Wright.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that dude is amazing.
He is so wonderful.
Oh man, it's great.
But I cannot suffer Evan Rachel Wood gladly. She is long-winded and nonsensical.
That is so fun. I don't know. Scott said the same exact thing because I totally forgot about the other panels. Like when she talked, and Scott was like, "Oh man, if you let her talk, she's going to talk for the whole hour."
Like for me, like in years past, I was like, "Well, this is her first big show.
Yeah.
She's excited to be in Hall H." But now at this point, it's like nobody's told her that she's in an ensemble cast. And she's not the star of the show, and in a lot of cases, not the most fascinating character. She thinks she is the engine on that train, and I'm like, sweetie, cool your jets.
Jeffrey Wright's king.
I'm curious about this show. I'll watch that.
The
first season is awesome.
You're going to love it. And the second season's got a lot of good stuff on it. It just was one of those things where it did not work for me on a week-to-week basis.
Those shows are so dense, and if you watch an episode and then sneeze, you've lost like 30% of the plot.
So if you're gonna binge it, and it's not it's almost like Game of Thrones. I want to say there's only like 10 episodes per season.
10,
so and you having the benefit of being able to binge it and watch them back to back, like Lisa said, because it is dense. It won't probably lose you as opposed to us watching it when it was airing it. Yeah, because that shit was kind of hard to keep up with. But I would say it's a worthy investment, especially like you said, since we are sans Game of Thrones now.
I'll definitely check it out.
And then
it was animation.
Animation show of shows.
Gotta say, I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I was surprised because I enjoyed it, but I was also surprised because before going into that, you had asked me what I thought. My expectations of how Sia was gonna receive that.
Yeah.
And I was like, because Sia loves anime.
And then I kept checking in on Sia. I was like, is Sia enjoying it? Yeah, she seems okay. She seems all right. Thumbs up from Sia? Yeah, okay.
She enjoys a particular style of animation as myself. I kind of rubbed off on her from me. Not even forcibly. Like, that's just because of the stuff that she watches. So I'm thinking, maybe this is where she's gonna take a nap. It's gonna lose her. She was engaged like the entire time. Like the first short, when the old man gets dragged down with the ship.
Yeah, voiced by Ian McShane.
Voiced by Ian McShane. Like Sia was distraught.
Oh.
Like when she had emotional connection and reaction to that, because when he came back, she was happy and relieved. So to see her respond to that emotion, because up until that point, I didn't think she was into it. I didn't think she was paying attention to it. But like when she emotionally responded to that, I was like, "Oh, wait, you're watching this?" And she was like, "Yeah, I was so scared. I thought he was dead." And I go, "Oh, okay." So I'm like, "All right, well, I guess she was into that one." And she just kept going like with the rest of the shorts. And so when it was
over, did you have a
over,
favorite? I definitely had a favorite.
Of course I did. In years past, the animation shows has been
really awful.
Not great.
It was a great time to hit the double R.
Confessional.
The confessional?
No, the concessions line.
That's what I did. I hit the concessions.
Yeah, so did everybody else.
I went to the confessional, also called the ladies' room.
Oh.
Yeah.
But no, this year they were really good. My favorite was the Green Bird.
Mine too. The one from France. With the crazy bird who
with the weird legs.
Yeah.
And like it lays an egg, and then the egg gets rolled into a church, and then a church bell falls on it.
It's like a bird with human legs. The design is so
it's odd,
unappealing, but also lovely.
And creates an interesting dynamic as, having to sit on an egg and having these ridiculously long legs.
But I thought, I gave that 4 stars.
I
put
loved
that
it.
on Letterboxd.
On Letterboxd?
Yeah, it's on.
That's
all
cool.
of those are on Letterboxd.
Really?
That's the only one I put in.
I saw the last one, one small step.
Yeah,
I really like that one.
I got a little choked up.
I mean, I'm an emotional guy,
Yeah.
so
I thought that was a great showcase this year. If they could only be that good every year.
I know.
Yeah. And then we had the Women Who Kick Ass panel after that, right?
Let me use the restroom, guys. I'll let Lisa take over.
I hated
Whoa.
the Women Who Kick Ass panel
it
this
wasn't
year.
it wasn't as strong as it has been.
You said hate it two times.
I hated it.
Oh, you said it 3 times.
And part of it is this is a panel we have every year,
Right.
and it's about the inclusivity and the diversity of casting women and creating new roles for them, and I think that is a worthy cause. But I think that there was nothing in this panel that advanced this conversation at all, and it all just seemed to be the same sort of stuff.
But you know what? Not in just defense of this particular panel, but to me, and I may be wrong, this may be my male brain thinking this, but it feels like that's been the case for the last couple of years.
I think there have been some really cool panels. I think when you have...
I thought the one last year was really good.
Oh, that one I missed.
To me, I feel like they've talked about what it's like to be a mother, what it's like to be pregnant on set, how you have to argue for your rights as a woman and things like that. With this one, there was really none of that kind of girl gab that I really enjoy. And I've talked about this in years past, but they are only showcasing one type of diversity. They're all women, but they are all cisgendered, size 2, gorgeous women. And I just, to me, I think that there is so much beautiful diversity in womanhood. They generally do a fairly good representation of age. They'll have one menopausal woman, and then they will have 4 gorgeous, and the menopausal woman will also be an 11 out of 10 gorgeous woman. And to me, it's just I just don't see a diversity of women up there. And one thing that really, and I know that this is just my issue because I am an eating disorder survivor and I deal with a lot of self-loathing and body issues. To look up there and see these supermodels saying that they represent all women. So that hurts my heart to see that year after year. And then finally, another woman who is very brave went up there and asked a question about body diversity.
Yeah, that's where I was about to go.
Yeah. And they are all you just have to love yourself. I was going to do a nude scene and I wasn't feeling confident, but then my mom said I was beautiful and then I did it. I'm I'm sure that these women have suffered and had to make sacrifices to be the size that they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure to some women it comes naturally, to some women it's hard work, but to some women it's impossible. To some women it's an unattainable goal. So to have one type of woman who is an impossible but ideal shape telling this hall full of diverse and beautiful women that, yeah, it was hard for me to do my nude scene, but then I was like, ha ha ha, I weigh 16 pounds.
I hear what you're saying, Lisa, and I agree with you. And seeing 9 years of the Women Who Kick Ass panel kind of just being the same kind of conversation is really frustrating.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to the programmers.
Right.
Now, Entertainment Weekly puts this on every year, and the way they do it is they do it by getting the people to say yes that are already there. They're not flying anybody in. So who they're picking from are the people who are attending the show on that day for the movies that are being presented. You know, like Ruby Rose was going to be on there, but then she bailed on it, and then they brought in Jerry Ryan because she was there for Picard Day.
Right.
So like that's how that happened. So I don't I don't put the blame on the actresses that are up there.
No.
And I don't necessarily put the full blame on Entertainment Weekly, but I do have a problem with them never addressing the issues.
Right. I do think that it was tone deaf. For those women to answer the question in the way that they did.
And the moderator from Entertainment Weekly was asking the most surface level drudgery.
Here is the question I would have asked about body diversity. I would have asked those women, what sacrifices have you felt like as women you've had to make to maintain your physique?
That men don't.
That men don't have to do. They have to do physical training, but they still have to maintain a pants size. And do they feel like that is a distraction from the art that they're trying to make? Being that how they look as a priority? And then my second question would be, do you recognize that how you look is an advantage over every other type of woman? And would you like the playing field leveled so that every type of woman can be considered beautiful? That would be my question, because I think that that's the kind of thing that those women would have insight to. And I think that that is something that would lift up the women in the crowd instead of lifting up the women who are already on stage being stars.
That was one of my issues when the lady with the question that you said about body image.
That was just
body
like a total
diversity.
fumble.
And then the one thing that really rubbed me the wrong way was the way Kobe Smulders answered that question, where she was talking about something about her breaking her leg and how that changed.
She doesn't respect her body.
And I was like, well, that's not what the lady was asking. She wasn't asking that. And it's almost like she was trying to divert what the lady was actually trying to ask.
It's hard to answer that question if it's not even remotely in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Like none of those
they can't relate to
none of those women are relating to that issue in this moment. And because they haven't created a narrative over 9 years of this panel, you're hearing the same stories.
This is the first time we've had that moderator. For the previous panels, we've had the same woman.
Or like
same two
not
women.
every year, but we've had some carryover. Not much, but yeah.
So to me, I think that if this is supposed to be a platform to advance women, then
you need continuity.
You need to have continuity. We need to be retaking the temperature of where women are at this point in pop culture. And you have to ask the tough questions, and you have to stop calling working women who are successful and doing the best that they can role models. You can't look at someone going like, what is it like to be a role model? Because people don't make themselves role models. We choose our role models. And so far, we've been choosing an ideal that for most women is unsustainable, and for some women and some children, deadly. So it's my beef. But I can't take that panel anymore. I can't take it unless it changes.
Well, you don't have to take it anymore because the following panel is the big one, the one that over 6,000 people waited in line to see, and that is the return of Marvel Studios.
Yes.
They skipped out 2018 because they heard Disco wasn't going to be there. Disco was returning to 2019, so they said, well, we have to be there. And so they showed up.
Yeah, they did.
They showed up big time.
Yeah.
And this was a unique Marvel Studios presentation because after Endgame, no one officially knew what was going to be there.
Right. No.
We all had a pretty good guess. And honestly, with the exception of 3 announcements, we knew all of those titles were going to fall in some order.
And you know, that didn't diminish. I don't feel like it diminished anything because to hear it officially out of Kevin Feige's mouth, but also to hear it on the best platform possible in Hall H.
And the casting. I think the casting was really the biggest.
All the castings were surprises. Yes, yes, absolutely. And I loved how Kevin Feige started the panel off this year We had a montage of the Infinity Saga.
I got emotional.
Yeah, of course.
I got emotional, and I was surprised that I got emotional
because it all built to
the snap.
Tony.
Yeah.
Every time I see him now, every time I see Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark now, it doesn't feel right. It's like a gut punch to me.
Yeah.
Like he's gone. Like I don't know. Like it hurts. But
and then he brought Kevin Feige all the people who are in his team,
All
the execs of his team.
Yes.
He brought them onto the stage, something he had never done before, because he wanted Hall H to give their thanks to them. You know, and that was really cool. I thought that was like a class act move from Kevin Feige.
Absolutely.
So we all gave them our applause, and then like my favorite thing that I wanted to see. Because I don't know if you remember, like at the El Capitan Theater when they announced Phase 3, they didn't do it at the Comic-Con that year, but they bring out this timeline of question marks and dates.
Yeah.
And so, like, when that timeline comes out, and you see, like, May of 2020, and then going into November of 2021, you're like, oh my God. What are all those? That's a lot of dates. That's a lot of dates.
And I didn't think that they were going to do Disney Plus because I never knew because we knew they were going to do Disney Plus shows, but I didn't know that they were going to be part of the actual phases.
Yeah.
So
if you want to watch all of Phase 4, you have to get Disney Plus.
Which is smart.
We're such suckers.
Which is very smart.
Love it.
So first up.
Well, so at first I was like, okay, well, they're going to announce Black Widow because that's filming right now. We're going to see a trailer. But Kevin Feige, he's too smart for that.
Save that
He's
one.
like, no, we're going to save that. We're going to save that to the end.
Yeah.
And he jumps into the announcement of the Eternals officially and bringing the cast out.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Like, talk about that cast.
Well, it's so funny because me and Darren were sitting next. Well, see, it was in between us, and Chris I had on the other side. And like during some of the casting announcements, me and Darren would just make eye contact. It was like, oh. And so for that one, I think the first casting announcement was Brian Tyree Henry.
No, it was Richard Madden.
The one that we got excited, but Richard Madden was Richard Madden.
Rob Stark.
You don't get excited about Rob Stark, Brian? He's your guy.
Yeah, I mean, he made some stupid decisions. I've talked about that on the recap, but I do like Rob Stark. But and he was kind of already rumored.
So the moment when you and Darren exchanged a glance, that was Brian Tyree Henry.
Because I had no idea that he was going to be a part of this cast, and then he says Brian Tyree Henry, and I was like,
he's playing Fastos.
And I was like, oh shit, and I was like, okay.
Well, yeah, and that reaction kind of stemmed from something that, was of note to me, not only with just his casting, but the entire cast of Eternals, but then like of Phase 4 in general, and that is the diversity. Like to see another Anthony Mackie and Chadwick Boseman aren't the only brothers up there now. Like to see Brian Tyree Henry. And to be a fan of his from his work on Atlanta, Paperboy, to all of his other bit parts that he's been doing. I most recently saw him in the Child's Play remake, and that movie's okay, but he's great in that movie. He's great in everything that he does. So to see him reach this level of success to where he is now a part of Hollywood's biggest, money machine is...
And it's diversity not just in front of the camera, but also behind the camera.
Behind the camera as well. Like the cast of Eternals has Brian Tyree Henry. It has Kumail Nanjiani representing for the Pakistani.
I love that because I remember the first time I saw Kumail Nanjiani at Comic-Con, and it was at that weird side stage. Do you remember that? Can you remember whose stage that was?
That was Entertainment Weekly's.
Yeah. So it was a side stage next to the bay, and he was doing some of his stand-up with Jonah Ray, because at that time they had the meltdown,
and there was nobody in the audience,
and it was a great set, but he was doing it for literally just me, and I was just like, oh, it's Kumail Nanjiani, that stand-up that I love. How lucky am I to see him out here outside of Comic-Con?
But then to see him in the Eternals and see Aisha's response to it, and Fatima's and Miriam's, and like how significant that is.
So cool.
Huge. Yeah,
there is
Lauren Ridloff, who is deaf.
That
is
tremendous.
Speaking.
That is tremendous. That right there, can't be understated, because again, Marvel Studios and those films are the hugest platform in Hollywood as far as visibility. And so all of those films and those characters eventually become known worldwide. And a part of our population, a huge part of our population, is the deaf community.
Disabled population.
And so for them to have representation, and also it's a female representation.
And a woman of color.
A woman of color. So it's like a triple threat right there. So for them to be able to see themselves, not just in a drama, day-to-day life, but to see themselves
as gods.
As gods.
That's the thing, is it's the Eternals, right? These are the uber
beings of power. And to be able to see themselves in that light is tremendous.
And that's not just it. There's so many more people that you know.
There's so many more.
Salma Hayek. Leah McHugh.
The little child.
Yeah. The child.
Don Lee.
That's when I lost it.
Yeah. Like I saw your video.
I was super excited about everybody else. Like, oh, Kumail Nanjiani and Brian Tyree Henry. But when Don Lee came out.
Did you know?
No.
Oh, so me and Darren kind of already knew, because I knew he was rumored.
I had not heard.
So I was like, okay. So when they called his name,
I flipped my lid and I had no voice.
So for Koreans, they have representation as well. So I
just feel like Kevin Feige has his ear to the ground for what people are actually yearning for.
Yeah, what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I don't want to jump ahead to the rest of the reveals, but my biggest takeaway, and it started with the cast of Eternals, is just the incredible amount of diversity within the MCU, and also behind the cameras as well.
Yeah. And then Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. She's great.
She represents the aliens in our population.
The goddesses.
Yes. So that was exciting. And so what they would do with this panel, this Hall 8, the Marvel panel, is that they would have an MCU film, and then they would do a reveal for something from Disney Plus. So first up, I want to say it was Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan came out.
Great chemistry between those two guys.
That's gonna carry that show.
They were trading Cap Shield back and forth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was great.
I also want to watch them kiss Lisa.
But then we get a nice surprise.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Talk about it.
Because suddenly the screen behind them crackles, and then we get the words that are spoken to the Winter Soldier to activate him, and you recognize, that's Zemo's voice. That's Danielle Bruhl. And then suddenly there's Danielle Bruhl. You're like, oh, Zemo's coming back, and Zemo is addressing the Hall H crowd.
Fun.
And mocking Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then it ends with him putting the Zemo hood on. And again, I lost it.
I think it's great to bring him back as the villain.
And brilliant.
Anthony Mackie just knows how to work a stage, because he asked him, it's like, are you scared? It's like, we beat them once, we can beat them again.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Yeah. And then the next film was
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. This was another one here that I think is going to be huge as far as diversity.
Well, let's talk about how they roll that out, though. So, they announced, it's going to be Shang-Chi.
The Mandarin.
And it's going to have some people in it. It's going to have Awkwafina in it. And Tony Leung is in it.
Oh, my God.
As the Mandarin.
As the Mandarin. Yeah, Tony Leung.
When that happened, Brian and I, we lost our
I was
shit.
Like, wait,
but,
hold up.
They're announcing supporting players. I'm like, well...
Who is?
I just started chanting, who's Shang-Chi? Yeah. Who's Shang-Chi? And then, Destin Cretton?
Yeah.
Daniel Cretton?
Daniel Cretton.
Daniel Cretton.
That's it. Destin Daniel Cretton. I apologize. I will know your name by the time I watch your movie.
The world will.
The world will. And it's Shang-Chi, and what's the subtitle?
The Legend of the Ten Rings.
So going all the way back to Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
Yet again.
Yeah.
And the 10 rings. And they showed a clip real quick of the Mandarin, the Trevor Slattery short film, where we learned that he was masquerading as the Mandarin, but there actually was a legit Mandarin, and we're going to meet the real Mandarin, and we're going to meet the real 10 rings.
Yeah.
And Destin comes out, talks about how excited he is, and we've got Shang-Chi here.
Everybody's waiting to see who it's going to be.
And you're like, Simu Liu?
Shimu Liu?
Shimu Liu?
I think
it's Simuliu.
Again, we're all going to know your names by the time your movie comes out.
Simu, I just call it Simu Liu.
Simu Liu.
Yeah.
Still can't do it. I'm a horrible American.
Fairly unknown. And from what I heard, he just got cast.
He told us he had gotten cast on Sunday.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So literally, he hadn't even known for a full week.
Nope.
And
he's just a cool guy from Toronto.
I know.
Super dreamy.
I'm following him now on Twitter.
Bilingual. He was dropping some Chinese. Very cool.
He's doing interviews now, and he was talking about, he did the audition, and then he gets a phone call on Sunday from Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige's like, hey, so you're going to be Shang-Chi, and we need you to come to Comic-Con Tuesday. All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine being that dude?
Yeah,
so cool. But he has so much charisma. Like he
does.
commanded that crowd. It was like a real beautiful moment.
Shang-Chi's another movie that can really do something different than what we've seen in the MCU.
I'm excited for that though.
And it's again, as far as representation, for the Chinese and Chinese Americans, which is Chinese all over the world, like. It's a big deal that they also have a place on this large platform. So again, I was thrilled to see that, and with, like you said, not just in front of the camera, but also behind the camera with the director as well. So them getting opportunities in Hollywood and on these big, huge tentpole commercial films to inspire their people and to want to see them be able to succeed and do great things. So
yes, and it's also important for all the other races to see this representation.
Yes,
to see all the color of the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So then after that, I want to say we get WandaVision.
Yes.
So how excited were you for that, Lisa?
Super stoked.
Yeah.
It has to do with that.
Well, we don't know what it has to do.
Well, it looks like the Matt Fraction company.
No,
not Matt
Tom
Fraction.
King.
Tom King. Oh yes, of Miracle. It looks a lot like his run on Vision, which was like
a 50s dad kind of story, but told with robots, right?
Right,
and
where he wants to have a family.
Like the impression I get is they kept using the word weird. And it's WandaVision. Vision's dead. Vision's coming back. Paul Bettany was there. And I'm thinking that you take the idea of Tom King's The Vision, where the Vision builds a robot family and tries to understand what a normal life is by constructing it. And what if you take that desire and give it to Wanda, who is suffering after Endgame, and she goes, I want to build my Vision family, and I want to bring Vision back, and I want to try to find normalcy.
And she's been known to make children in the past out of magic.
Yeah, so I think this could be a really
twisted,
weird,
exciting
storyline that apparently will lead into another film.
Which was the film that they revealed immediately after. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Doctor Strange.
Yes, and in the multiverse of madness.
And how excited were you for that?
And what a great title.
Yeah.
How could you not be excited? In the Mouth of Darkness, of course we're excited about in the multiverse of madness.
Yeah. I'm really excited for, you know what, because I had known that they were working on Doctor Strange 2, and I like the first Doctor Strange, but for whatever reason, I don't know that I was necessarily excited, but just that title alone and the implications of that title, but also with Wanda Maximoff being a part of this film as well, which was something that they announced and which got Zachary really excited. And
Scott Derrickson coming out and saying this is going to be a horror film.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I don't with the amount of films that Marvel Studios has been putting out and just the superhero subgenre in general. If we're going to be able to sustain and keep it fresh and interesting, we talked about it all the time, you having to take different approaches and things like that. So, when Scott Derrickson is saying that this is going to be a horror film, at the very least within the MCU to keep things fresh, you need a weird ass WandaVision show. You need a horror. You need a horror Doctor Strange film to add some. Diversity and different flavors texture to it. So
but if you know anything about Scarlet Witch as a character, I mean, she's one of those in the comic books who can be really dark and be a villain and do some really heinous and selfish things.
So I'm looking forward to that, to especially even within Doctor Strange's own franchise, to be able to differentiate that film from the first film. because we have a totally different Doctor, right? So at the end of the first Doctor Strange, you have a character, a Stephen, who has grown a little somewhat from the beginning of that film, but that Stephen has gone through Infinity War and an Endgame, and
he's been blipped out of existence.
So take that coupled with, you know, the idea of a multiverse and expansion on that and exploration of that, and then Wanda and his relationship, having, you know, known her for some time now, into a horror story. So that has my interest peaked. So I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah.
Yep. So the next one is Marvel Studios' Hawkeye.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So this one is a Matt Fraction one. I'm not a dum-dum. I know comics a little bit.
Are you excited because of that?
I'm excited. I'm excited for the introduction of Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
Tell me about Kate Bishop.
She is the next Hawkeye. So so he'll be mentoring her. Kevin Feige also said that we are going to get to see more of the time he spent as Ronin.
Yes,
which should be really interesting. But mostly I just love that they just plucked the entire Matt Fraction logo and the entire style with the color palette and everything
it's
right
David
from the
Aja's
comic book.
Art.
Yeah,
like,
David Aja.
Brought to life.
Oh, that little
logo.
animated intro
Yeah.
logo. That was
and
pretty
even
cool.
the silhouette of Kate Bishop that we saw. That's
the
David
one
Aja.
from the comic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was super rad. And that led into
Loki.
Yeah.
So the first time I saw Tom Hiddleston, I tell this story all the time, said it a bunch of times on the podcast. First time Tom Hiddleston comes into Hall H.
Oh, we accidentally skipped What If. Did we skip it on purpose? Brian's excited for it, right?
Oh, What If? Yeah.
But that's all right. So we got to go Loki, What If, and then we'll go to the final two movies. I guess.
Okay. So the last time Loki, not just Tom Hiddleston, but the last time Loki was in Hall H, he had a rock star's entrance and reception. That was the same day Tom Cruise came into Hall H, and he blew the roof off of that. But Tom Hiddleston came out in character as Loki, and it is still one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Hall H moments of Comic-Con. You know, that dude, you talk about commanding a stage presence and charisma. Like, he just exudes that, and he came back out again, and he had that same reception. Hall H was ready.
But you can always tell that he's like knocked back by the reception.
Yeah.
Like the smile that's on his face.
Yeah.
Like he can't believe, that
people love him.
That people love him as much as they do. It's really cool to see.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that show. You know, they have a little, Kevin Feige talks a little bit about, and they show that particular scene from Endgame where he once again gains possession of the Tesseract and him going into his little portal and what that would mean for the show. And he brought something up that for whatever reason I didn't think about, but it was pretty obvious. So that the Loki that we're going to get in this show is the Loki from the end of Avengers, and the Loki at the end of Avengers was not the Loki who kind of turned a corner. He's still the mischievous, the angry god of mischief, and that is the Loki that will be shepherding us through this television series.
Love comics.
Yeah,
I love it, and I love what a wonderfully fascinating place to put this character to rob the audience of the character we lost. Give it back to us, but not be that guy.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that too.
It allows that show to be something unique. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
So just to satisfy my type A-ness, and I apologize. So it goes Shang-Chi, then WandaVision, then Loki, then Doctor Strange, then What If, and then Hawkeye.
Okay.
So let's talk What If.
What If?
What If?
This
Brian,
is the
you're
animated
excited.
one.
I'm actually excited about this because I don't know what to expect, and I like the idea of doing something different within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, to have, like Kevin Feige said, their first animated show, and to really kind of go back and tell alternate versions of what could have happened. And they said that they're going to focus specifically on the Infinity Saga, and to bring back the cast to come back and do the voices of this animated show, and then they put up a lot on the screen, a lot of different actors coming back. We got Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Paul Rudd, Mark Ruffalo.
Like, almost everybody.
Pretty much everybody. It seems like it could be a really, really intriguing show to see alternate versions of what could have happened.
I also love the idea of one-offs.
Yeah. I think that's going to be great.
I want to see the animation.
That's the thing. I want to see what the animation style is going to be. Are they going to go like a Pixar route, which I think could be kind of cool if they do it that way?
No, I think it's going to be Mike McMahon, and it's going to all look like Rick and Morty. No, just joking.
I mean, they showed a little bit of a design of the Watcher. Now, whether that's the Watcher that we're going to get in the animated series or not, but like it's a much
voiced
more
by who?
Jeffrey Wright.
So cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Watcher.
And like just based on the image of that Watcher, I think the animation is going to be more adult than say a Pixar style.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how great is it going to be to have Uatu come in and be like, well, at one point Peggy Carter, she could have become Captain America. Now let's go watch that story.
You can see that story.
Yeah, and they showed like little animated clips of comic book covers coming to life, and one of the comic book covers they showed coming to life was that Exiles cover in which Peggy Carter donned the shield. So, it could get really weird.
And it seems like it could be a lot.
I was always a fan of those issues, those comics.
Yeah, my laptop background right now is the cover that Bill Sienkiewicz did of What If Conan the Barbarian Came to 1980s New York. That was a great issue.
Yeah.
He goes full Death Wish.
Wow.
Oh wow. All right. So after What If, where are we? We talked about
We've
Hawkeye.
talked about Hawkeye. So
Now
the
it's-
next one is Thor: Love and Thunder.
So,
What a great panel.
I just got goosebumps. So obviously you bring our hero Taika Waititi back out on stage, and you bring the lovely Chris Hemsworth out on stage, and the goddess Tessa Thompson out on stage. But then Taika Waititi, after revealing like the title, which is great, Love and Thunder.
Before we even get to the title reveal of Love and Thunder, I liked there were some questions that Kevin Feige, or maybe it was Taika, presented to Tessa Thompson, and what is Valkyrie, king of Atlantis up to, and she goes,
And this is so
Asgard.
boss because she has not read the script.
yeah, she hasn't read the script. She goes, well, I think the king of I said Atlantis.
You
Jesus.
did.
The king of Asgard. The king of Asgard is going to need a queen. And
Yeah.
then she, gives a little like a style to it, and that was awesome.
And then the next thing she would do is serve the people and make sure that the people are provided for. She sounds like an amazing king.
Yeah, love that.
Thor chose right when he handed her.
And then that was when the Love and Thunder. Well, I guess they revealed Love and Thunder before.
Yeah.
But that's when Taika Waititi started talking. So sorry, Darren.
No,
Continue.
so we have the surprise. I was not. Were you aware of this prior to?
No,
Did you hear rumors of it?
No. I heard no rumors. I did a good job of avoiding all rumors.
Well, they did announce Thor 4 before.
No, but I mean this
The big reveal.
The big reveal of Love and
This,
Thunder.
and this was something that I had speculated like a long time ago.
But we thought it was impossible
But
because we thought there was bad blood.
Yeah, like the Red Skull can't come back, right?
Well, because Taika
He's never coming
Waititi is
back.
Taika Waititi, he saw fit to introduce the Mighty Thor as Jane Foster's return, as played rightfully so by Natalie Portman.
That's right.
And that was a tremendous surprise. And Hall H lost it, rightfully so, as well as I did. And to have that character come back, I didn't know that I was going to be that happy to see her return. And Natalie Portman walks out on stage, and because she is worthy, she is handed and wielded Mjolnir, and that was just a great
And
Comic-Con
Taika
moment.
Waititi talked about how much he's really enjoyed Jason Aaron's run on the Mighty Thor and that particular storyline, and that he would be mining from that to bring the Goddess of Thunder to life. And
I hope that they bring everything about her story because within
with the cancer.
Yeah. So in the comics, Jane Foster is dying of cancer. So when she's holding Mjolnir, she's not suffering. But when she's not holding Mjolnir and she's not in the shape of Thor, she is dying.
I have a lot of questions.
Yes.
Right? So Mjolnir's gone. Mjolnir's been destroyed.
No. Was back.
No. Mjolnir went back in time with Captain America at the end of Avengers Endgame. He brought it back to Thor: The Dark World. So Mjolnir is not the Mjolnir we know is missing. How do they explain bringing a a Mjolnir from the past? You know, where does this Mjolnir come from?
Can't they forge a new one just the way they forged Stormbreaker?
Maybe. But is that in my mind would not be Mjolnir anymore? But you know,
okay.
I don't know. It's curious. Excited.
They have it worked out.
I know they have it worked out. I'm looking
boss.
forward to seeing how they explain it.
Yeah, that's gonna be boss when that happens. I'm really. I mean, I was always excited for another Thor, but I was not this excited. I wanted Beta Ray Bill, you know, but I'll take.
It still could happen.
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's not could. It's happening.
I think Beta Ray Bill is on the horizon.
Yeah, he's either in Thor 4 or he's in Guardians 3. I know he's coming, but I mean as far as a reveal. But seeing Jane Foster as played by Natalie Portman, seeing Natalie Portman on stage and getting that confirmation that she's going to be in the 4th film is enough for me. I'm excited. And then after that,
they double back to Black Widow.
What do you think about the footage?
I mean, it looked good.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
She is like computer de-aged and smallerized.
Really?
I think so.
I couldn't tell, but that my brain doesn't work that way. Yeah. It is a prequel. It's set several years.
Tween-aged her body.
I trust your eye, Lisa.
I heard it takes place between Civil War and
is that what it is?
Infinity War when they were on the run.
Yeah.
But not the footage we saw. The footage we saw was back in her old Russian days.
Right.
No. I mean, it could be that still.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, like that takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We're going to see multiple Black Widows. We're going to meet her sister.
Yeah.
But you dropped a bomb on me. I did not realize. Florence Pugh from Midsommar, who I just watched in Midsommar. I did not recognize her. She was great in that scene.
And we saw Taskmaster.
Which I heard it's rumored that it could be Rachel Weisz.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
I kind of like that idea. I like that idea. I love Taskmaster's shield.
Yes.
The mask is a little skull-like. It's not quite the comic book version. The comic version is very cartoony.
Yeah.
I love that skull face on Taskmaster.
Yeah.
But I'll take this update.
Yeah. When the Black Widow movie was announced, I can't say that I was excited for it. But seeing that footage, seeing that particular action beat between Natasha and her sister, my curiosity was piqued.
Like the movie looks good.
Yeah, it looks good, yeah. So I'm more curious as to the story that they're going to tell.
But of all the movies announced, that's the one I'm least interested in, and
Really?
because it is a prequel. And going back a bit, and it looks like it's going to be this, passing of the torch to the new Black Widow, which I'm guessing is Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
That's not as from this point of view right now, not as exhilarating as all these other things that they're talking about.
We have some very, very crazy, weird, cosmic, fantastical stuff on the horizon. And granted, there's nothing wrong with what this story of Black Widow is, but when you just compare that to the real Mandarin, I'm gonna know who the real Mandarin is, and then also Mighty Thor. I don't know, like I want to see those before I want to see Black Widow.
It feels like that's kind of the theme that I got from this whole Phase 4 is that it feels like a passing of the torch phase with Black Widow, with Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, with Anthony Mackie learning to become Cap,
Thor,
Mighty Thor. It feels like that's what this phase is.
Transitional.
Is a transitional phase, a passing of the torch.
It's short. It's only a year.
Yeah, it's only a year and a half. So it starts, May 1st next year to November of 2021.
I'm glad it's kind of short because that means we can hurry up and get to the thing that was revealed at the end. So Kevin Feige has one more thing. Man, he's bragging about, we showed you.
Three more things.
Well, yeah, he's bragging about, we showed you all this stuff, but I haven't even talked about Fantastic Four. And I know, Brad, you lost your shit. We haven't even talked about mutants, which I couldn't, be more excited about.
Black Panther 2,
Black
Captain Marvel 2,
Captain Marvel 2. There's so many other things. But then, he dropped, an Uber bomb on me. Was never in a million years was I expecting this.
Didn't expect this at all.
And, man, it's one of those things that, you don't know you need it or want it or it's possible. But then once you see it, you can't unsee it. Kevin Feige does a boss move and brings out Mahershala Ali out on stage. and says, "Welcome to the MCU."
Yeah. So even then, like, I don't expect, like, well, what's the role Mahershala Ali's gonna play?
I'm sitting here, I'm going through my brain, like, what the hell?
Wasn't he in Luke Cage?
And he goes to put the ball cap on because we've all been given Black Widow ball caps.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's not the Black Widow ball cap, but I can't tell.
I know.
What
I was
is.
trying to look to see what it is. I was like, what the hell is
But
that?
Hall H's got you covered because they got this gigantic screen on stage, and on that screen, 5 letters come up. Is it 5 or 6? 5. BLADE.
Mm-hmm.
Mahershala Ali is our Blade.
What?
Yeah.
Bomb dropped. Holy, Hall H was destroyed, and we lost our shit.
It's great.
And Brian and I, we looked at each other, and I had a BVS oh shit moment.
That's
voice,
the thing. Like, how weird. That is the closest we've come to a replica of BVS when that was initially announced way back when.
Because it's like I knew they had
Blade.
the rights.
It's Blade.
I
Not
knew
a top
they had
tier
the rights to
character
Blade.
superhero.
Yeah.
But there was never any talk. They always rumored, Wesley, blah, 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 this and that. But nobody never knew, okay, are they actually going to do something with this property? And
they're going to do something, apparently.
And I thought it'd be like a Disney Plus thing. but
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Phase 5.
No. Mahershala Ali.
That's a great
So
casting.
cool.
I never would have done it. I never would have thought about it.
Tell
It's
the
perfect.
story.
Well, I mean, I think everybody has heard the story by this point, but how he got the role.
He asked for it.
He asked for it. He called up Kevin Feige. He just won an Oscar for Green Book. He said, hey, I'd like to come in and talk about an MCU movie. And Kevin Feige's like, sure, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Mahershala Ali comes into the office, and Kevin Feige's like, oh, okay, yeah, you want to be in an MCU movie? I like that idea. He's like, I want it to be Blade. And he's like, okay, I guess we're making a Blade movie.
There you go.
So cool.
Man. You know what? Congratulations, Mahershala Ali, on not only just getting that role, but your success that allows you to have that juice to walk in to Kevin Feige's office and says, I'm Blade. And then he says, of course you are.
Well,
that
I'm
is
just
so dope.
excited for what this is going to do for our ticket sales for our screening of Blade on August 18th, Brad's birthday.
Yeah.
I don't want Brad to know, but we have surprises planned.
Oh, okay.
Lisa, I'm still connected to your email address, and so I know what the surprises
Oh, sorry.
God damn it.
are. Blade cupcakes, guys.
Yeah. God damn it.
It's because I connected when we were looking for Conan O'Brien tickets.
I forgot.
And so it popped up on my phone yesterday.
Well, you don't see the other surprise, though.
No, I didn't see that. There's more than Blade cupcakes?
There is more than Blade
Okay.
cupcakes.
I love Blade
All
cupcakes.
right.
Yes.
Nice.
God damn it.
Sorry.
I'm so
How
disappointed.
fitting is it that you're screening and we get this announcement in Comic-Con a month prior to?
Perfect. That's
pretty
awesome.
that's
We
pretty
have
awesome.
our little dork fingers on the pulse.
You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
do.
tweeted it out like, yeah, we knew.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I'm excited. The only thing that excites me more about Mahershala Ali as Blade is the prospect of who's directing that. Like who are you going to get to direct that picture? So
Brian is going to direct it. Our Brian.
Oh my God. Oh, man. I'm already feeling the pressure, but I can do it.
no pressure. You can do it. You
I
can
can
do
do
it.
it.
We need
Just
that
don't
dork
fuck it up, V.
representation.
Don't fuck it up.
I know, right?
Man, so that after that announcement, that ends Marvel's panel, and then as it has in the past a couple of times, Kevin Smith has a panel afterwards. He has the final panel of the evening, actually, and he is there talking about things, but also talking about his Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
And this is the first year that Lisa and I stuck around. We felt obligated because we had interviewed Jason Mewes.
And he was also on the panel, as well as Harley.
Yeah, and I got to say, it was a great panel.
So much fun.
Kevin Smith knows how to hold a room. And while Hall H did empty big time when Marvel was over, as it always does, a lot of people filtered in. And the place filled up, and I was impressed.
Well, when we left, the line, I mean, the tents were still full. So I guess they were able to get all those people back in, or the people who were waiting, because we saw that line in the tents for Hall H, man. They started moving, so they started filtering those people in. So I'm pretty sure.
And so there was a great crowd for Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And I was so glad because Kevin Smith was traumatized that one time when
that's right.
J.J.
Star
Abrams
Wars.
took everybody to that concert and there was just nobody. So the first person who comes out onto the stage is actually Jason Mewes to do this big intro. And he is taken aback, actually, by how many people are in Hall H. And then he brings out Kevin Smith, and Kevin Smith is like, oh, thank God that there are people here. Yeah. And he talked about, first he was just like, who wants to follow the Marvel panel of all panels? But then he goes on to talk about how much he loves Marvel. And that
he was losing his mind, too.
He was so excited. And he was talking about how, when Kevin Feige does the panel, it's just like he's whipping out his huge dick and he's just unfurling to the back of Hall H, and we're all just looking at it and so excited about it. And then he comes out for his panel and he takes his out, and it's just like itty bitty and so small. But I just thought that he's a true dork, through and through. And so it was that was really
so
sweet.
He introduced the trailer. We watched the trailer again, but then he had several scenes that he showed us.
I think he showed us 8 minutes of footage.
I think it was actually 10 minutes, because the one scene was 5 minutes, and then the other scene I think was almost 5 minutes. So a lot of footage from Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and then he just went to questions. And no matter how stupid the question is, or how intelligent the question is, or how awkward the question is, he always gives a very thorough answer.
And a really respectful answer. It's clear that he loves his fans. And everybody who was going up to the mic was a diehard Smodcast fan. So that was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I've just become a fan of Kevin Smith as a storyteller,
as an orator,
as a podcaster, and I don't get as excited about his movies as I once did back in the 90s, but to see him talk live, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean his Fat Man Beyond podcast and show on YouTube, I highly recommend that. It's great. Awesome.
So I was really happy to attend that this year and do something a little different with Hall H on Saturday.
Yeah.
All right. So that's everyone's Hall H for Saturday.
We all got to go back to our hotel rooms and shower and sleep.
So nice.
Not on the grass.
Yeah.
All right. Last day, Sunday.
What did we do Sunday?
Mine was very Tom Hiddleston. Low key.
Oh, terrible.
Nice. Okay. I think I may have got. Oh, that's what I did. I went to the interactive zone. I decided to take some pictures. I brought my camera.
What did you eat at the interactive zone?
I had because they have food trucks and little stands where you could buy food
with amazing inventions.
They do. So I had a grilled cheese pizza sandwich. Basically a grilled cheese that has pepperoni and in it and stuff like that.
Right. So I was very confused by what
I was imagining 2 pizzas,
belly
to belly,
same.
with the crust on the outside.
I'd try it.
You got to do that.
It was pretty good. They have so many different types of food. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to pick from, but I was like, let me try some stuff. And I took some photos out there. It was kind of just chilling. I came around, went inside a little bit. And then we were scheduled our dinner with the confams. We end up going back to Buca de.
Why don't we just accept that that's the only place that's ever going to have room for all of us?
Yeah.
The only thing about it is I cannot take the social pressure of ordering family style.
I know.
Yeah. I hate it.
That was weird.
I know. That was last year. It didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. I don't think so.
Because I think last time Scott just ordered for everybody.
He did.
Maybe, yeah.
And so this time, I don't know what, but we were half
it was
ordering.
fine. We all ate a ton of food.
It was
we
delicious.
Did. We
it was
did.
great. It was
and
delicious.
we all left a ton of food.
Not Brad. I ate that whole pizza.
Yeah,
dude.
My salad.
You did. You did.
And bread.
Yeah. That was pretty much. Towards the end of Sunday, we were all kind of together. So we had our lunch because Scott and his family were leaving straight from Buca de Beppo to go straight to the airport, and we had an hour left. And the rest of the fam went back down and got to experience the floor for.
That was my favorite. What do you call that?
The sad photo.
Not even sad photo, but when our last couple of minutes or our last
Our
time
fa-
spent
our
in the convention
our favorite
center.
last moment.
Yeah, like we were out in that hallway
Yeah, out
and
in
just
the
talking and
vestibule
taking
area.
pictures and stuff like that.
We
like,
lingered, and it was nice.
We've never lingered like that
Right.
before.
Well, the thing is, there's a whole bunch of people out there lingering. Because I was wondering, like, are they going to tell us to move? But then I'm looking, there's people like laying down. I'm like, oh, we're good.
They get you out of the exhibit hall. So like at 5 o'clock, it's done. Get out of the
they gotta
exhibit
break
hall.
it
We got to
down.
break it down.
Yeah.
But then like all the cosplayers linger into the main hallway,
Yeah.
and I scored most of my cosplay photos
Same.
in the last moments of Comic-Con.
Yeah, I got a bunch for Sia that in that way.
That was cool.
And so we had like 10 of us just
Yeah.
hanging out in the main hallway.
Talking about
Yeah.
everything we had seen and done. It was
Yeah.
really nice.
Like I loved that like powwow that we had.
Yeah,
That was
great.
really nice.
That was great. Yeah. So that was pretty much Sunday.
What about you, wife? Though, what did you do?
I did cosplay on Sunday. I broke out the old Don Greenwood.
Is that who that was, Lisa?
Yes,
I thought that was Ladybug.
Miraculous Ladybug. No, it is not.
Oh.
not
Which
what all
is
the people said.
fine. I got a lot of love online and on Twitter. I was all over Michael Allred's Twitter feed, and even Dan Slott commented where on years past he is just kind of hung back.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. But literally, this is the first year where literally not one person knew who it was. And like part of the day, I was just like, some of it was like little girls who are like super excited and they're like, Miraculous, can I get a picture? And I was just like, yeah, just don't quiz me at all about what this character is because I don't know. And I would take those pictures, but then I would experiment with like adults telling them like, they're going, I love your Miraculous Ladybug. I'm like, no, actually, I'm Dawn Greenwood. She's from Silver Surfer. She's super obscure. And even adults, like when you correct them, even the adult nerd will get a little bit of a sad upon being corrected. And so, like, I experimented with that a little bit. But then after that, I was just like, fuck it. Sure, I'm Miraculous Ladybug. Do you want a picture? Take a picture. So I just kind of embraced it.
Loved it.
Brad loved it. I was defeated.
You looked great, Lisa. You're clearly Dawn Greenwood. But guess what? More people watch Miraculous. Miraculous has a very similar costume.
Blue
it's
hair.
okay.
But you still made people happy.
You made lots of people
That's
happy.
The point, though.
I did. But Brad had this idea, and I might do it. Is this just buy a bunch of single issues, and then when people are like, "Are you Miraculous Ladybug?" Just giving them a comic
hit him in
book.
The forehead.
Silver Surfer, here you go. Boom.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the only way to spread the love, I think. And then Brad and I went to a really cool panel.
I mean, I'm not going to say it was my favorite panel because Marvel, all right. But my second favorite panel of the whole weekend was Sunday morning. We went to the spotlight on Jonathan Hickman. And Jonathan Hickman is, Grant Morrison level favorite comic book writer. And he has just launched this week a new X-Men series, House of X #1.
Oh, yeah.
And then next week, Powers of X #1. Lisa and I have read House of X #1.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is brilliant.
You're going to love it.
But it is unlike any other X-Men comic you've read. And you're like, are these the X-Men I know? What's happening? Are there clones?
They're
Are there pod
plucked
people?
from all of these crazy different eras, and they're all in like non.
Is this a time travel thing?
Because
Or
they
are
look
these
different.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Huh.
And he's building like a big sci-fi story with these characters. But
There's a code. I love a secret code.
But he did a spotlight, and what a spotlight panel is at Comic-Con is, hey, here's a microphone. People who want to talk to me, take the mic. Okay. And it was just people going up to him and talking X-Men with him, East of West, Black
Monday Murders.
Monday Murders, The Dying of the Dead, whatever anybody wanted to talk to him about. And he seemed really like not into being in a panel, but when people asked him a question, he gave them an answer. And he was fascinating to listen to. And it was fascinating to match his respect for the question with his uncomfortable quality of being there. Like, it was weird. It's a very unique vibe that he was giving.
One thing that I really loved about him was he is a writer who has found his niche, and he knows that he's the only Marvel writer currently that can really do it, and he knows it. So Jonathan Hickman is a guy who does big arcs, big direction changing, multi-level,
multi-character.
arcs.
Yeah, when people are like, "Who's on your X-Men team?" He's like, "Who are the X-Men?" There you go.
Yeah. It's all of those people.
It's everyone.
It's all of those people. And so people would ask him, like, do you like to do these big, life-changing things, or would you like to write a small, intimate story? And he's like, I would love to write a small and intimate story, but we have lots of Marvel writers who can do that. And in not so many words, he's like saying, like, I'm doing something that is extraordinary that no one else can do. And that kind of confidence from a guy who does not like public speaking, I found so profound.
Yeah. It was a good panel. It was an interesting panel. It got me hyped for his comic, and then I read his comic. I go, yep, he can back up what he says. He's continuing to kick butt. I love him. So that was a great panel. And then we spent like that time after that panel leading up to the lunch at Buca di Beppo going to comic book dealers and just trying to score as many comics for good deals as possible. And
with the little time we spent on the floor, we still managed to score a fat stack of trades.
Yeah, and good deals. Like, people always say like, Comic-Con's been overtaken by movies and blah, 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 blah. If you want comics, you're going to find a lot of comics for
And they're
going to
be 50% off.
I know a Sunday, that's where you get your best
I was
deals.
buying trades for $5. Like, it was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. But we also went over to the Weta booth. The Weta booth this year was banging.
And that's where we dropped the most money.
Yeah, $100.
They have these little ethos. What are they called?
They're called mini epics.
Well, they have the epics, and then they have the mini epics.
No, they have mini epics, and then they have micro epics.
Oh, okay. So they're these beautiful sculpts in kind of a cartoony style. And so they had a set of 3 from the original Planet of the Apes.
Zira, Cornelius, and Dr. Zaius.
Which we, of course, needed. But then they had a deal. You get 3 for like $70. Oh, no, 3 for $60 or 5 for $100. So we're like, well, we have $100, and you have the Xenomorph in this crazy cartoon style. I think looks so cool. And then you got
Christopher Johnson from District 9.
Which is still a movie I have not seen. So that was awesome.
Oh, that's right.
What?
Yeah.
It's going to be a still awesome screening. Spoilers. Don't worry. You're going to see it, Lisa.
So, yeah. But I'm really excited for what they have coming down the pike, because next year they're going to have apes from the new Planet of the Apes trilogy. So that'll round out our collection. So they have Caesar and Maurice and what was
Koba.
the other? And Koba. Yeah. And they have, as part of their micro epics, they have a Chappie.
That's cool.
So I'm so excited about that. It's so cute.
Lisa's desperate for some Chappie merch.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Underrepresented,
Big time.
awesome robot character.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
So awesome. And from Weta, he should be there. He should be a staple.
Easily, yeah.
So we bought that, and then I went over to the Shout Factory booth, and I picked up the exclusive Howling statue that they were selling there, which was $65.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all we spent money-wise.
Yeah, and then
we did a good job, and like food-wise, we went to Walmart before things kicked off and Target, and we just brown bagged it the whole con except for one meal. I had nachos in Hall H on Saturday.
and we bought some muffins and we bought some coffee.
Yeah,
But other than that, we
Gotta have
just
coffee.
ate out of the bag, and then we got Buca di Beppo, which was awesome.
Which we didn't pay for because
Yeah.
we have really
Cut
nice
it. Yeah.
Thank
So-
you, Scott.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to Scott.
Yeah, and that was really nice.
All right, anything you want to add, B?
No, I mean, like it was, like I got to the end, and I agree with you, Darren. Like when we had that awesome lunch. I felt like I was very relaxed. I was stressed at first going into that lunch because I was like, oh, we're taking time away from the floor and blah, 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 blah. But we had that lunch, and the lunch was great. We did our final hour. We hung out in the convention center after it had closed. And I just felt really at peace, and I loved experiencing the con through Sia's eyes and Zach's eyes and meeting Peter and meeting Chris and hanging out with Aaron and Kale and Amber and Scott and Aisha and Miriam and Fatima. Like it was like we just have such a great group.
Yeah.
And I've never felt closer to them than this year.
Yeah, it was really special.
Yeah, it was.
And then you two too.
Thank you.
Darren and Brian.
Yeah.
But we gotta admit, we hung out with you guys the least.
It's true.
It really is, because I rarely saw you guys throughout the whole con until
We were working opposite shifts a lot of the time.
I know.
Well, I'm always used to that. Like I always, because I figure Brad's gonna do his thing and Lisa has her panel, so I don't know. But that's for me. That's why I always look forward to Sunday, because I know we're going to convene, and then I'm going to hear stories about what you've been doing that whole, through the whole con, and what Brad has bought or what he's seen and stuff like that. So I don't know. I kind of like that, because it gives me something. It gives me one extra thing to look forward to on Sunday.
Makes us miss you.
Aw, you gotta miss a bitch. That's a Naomi Ekperigin line.
All right.
I'm quoting, so it's not like I'm using that word.
All right.
You gotta miss a bitch.
I miss Brian all the time.
Of course.
So yeah, that was our Comic-Con 2019.
Year 9.
Year 9.
So next year is 10. Year 10.
Yes, the decade.
So what was that? What was that face for? B.
Oh, nothing. No, we were having a conversation prior to.
What, about how excited you were to return next year for the 10th anniversary?
No, I mean, I don't know. I felt, and we talked about this at the lunch that we had on Sunday, that it felt a little bit different, because the main reason that I go, or initially wanted to go back in 2011 for the first time, and even when I tried to go in 2010, was because of the movie stuff. You know, I would follow Hall H, I would follow Comic-Con through JoeBlow.com and all these different sites.
Joe Blow.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I wish I could be in this room like they were, and I was like, man, I want to go so bad. Over the last couple of years, we've started to see studios pull out. I mean, we see the landscape of movies changing, and they're starting to see that San Diego Comic-Con may not be the best place to spend all this money to have to promote your movies, because there's really no return on your investment that maybe the studios can't see. So, as you see Sony pulling out, you see all these other studios pulling out, that's really one of the main reasons why I go. So I've been kind of thinking, because, things have changed personally in my life, and money and stuff like that. I was just like, I don't know if I'm feeling it to continue to go. But over the last 3 years, meeting our con family, and I was telling Darren this, and I even told them this, like, my reasons for going have changed, and I enjoy spending time. It's really more about the camaraderie and the friendships that we made, and seeing the people that we only get to see once a year, and just being in a place where we all can connect and really just kind of bask in the stuff that we love. And that's the reason I like going, and the thing that kind of rejuvenates me, that, I may want to go back. So
there's no doubt that the movie madness, the heights of movie madness for Comic-Con are behind them. Like, I don't think it's ever going to get to the levels that it was in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. And I would be surprised if Marvel comes back next year. Of course, I said that this year too.
Exactly.
And you don't know if they're coming back or not until after you've bought your tickets.
Exactly.
And probably after you've bought your hotel and plane tickets, right?
I know.
So like I would not be upset if Brian or Darren, if you were like, it's not really a lot there for me anymore on that front. I think I'm going to stay home this year. Save my money, spend it elsewhere.
Yeah.
I would not
hold it against you.
Yeah.
I would be upset.
We would be sad.
I would be very, very sad.
Yeah.
It's, like this year, especially with Darren bringing Sia in this year, and meeting Peter and Chris and all, and having Zach there this year. Like, Hall H line was never better.
Yeah.
The FAM environment was never better than this year. And, I know it's easier for me because while the movie stuff has faded, there's so much comic book stuff for my interest as well that I was just like, Sunday, panel-wise, there was like, I couldn't decide what to see because so many things were going on Sunday from the comic book point of view. But, I mean, I can't deny that, like, it's radically altered from what it was.
And the thing is like, a lot of times, I mean, when I'm there, I have a different experience and a different feeling. Like when I'm away from Comic-Con and I think about going next year, I'm like, maybe it's not worth me going. But then when I'm actually there, it feels almost like an escape from reality, so to speak. And I never feel happier than when I am at Comic-Con. And so when I'm there, I'm like, this is something I just feel like I can't give up. But then throughout the year, I'm just thinking, okay, is it really worth it? Is it worth it? But then when I'm there and I'm around the people that I love, it's just like, okay, yeah, this is the place that
there's
I
a
feel like I need to
huge
be.
like community aspect to it. Just the environment of being around creatives, being around fans,
passion.
Yeah, that environment really is an escape.
Yeah. It really does, and it kind of rejuvenates my own creativity. You know, I come back home and I feel like, all right, I'm ready to be creative again.
So often I see these, and we've talked about it on the preview cast, even like the negative perception that fandom gets now, and for good reason. There's like some crazy things that you see online. Last Jedi, but when you go to Comic-Con and you sit with these people and you have conversations, like I talked to a lot of people this year that.
Despite having no voice, probably why he lost his voice.
Yeah. And I learned a lot. I made huge lists of what people were watching and what they were excited about, comics they were reading. Like I really came to absorb. And when you're at Comic-Con, fandom is not a dirty word. It's like the most beautiful thing ever. And that's. I wonder how I would feel about the negativity around fandom if I wasn't going to Comic-Con these last 9 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my reasoning for going has changed. Like I said, I don't like the panels are fine, but then like I talk to Darren about it all the time. It's like you go to a panel and then like 2 weeks later, you don't think about it anymore. So it's like I'm not rushing to like stand in line to go see a panel or to have to buy something that I don't know. It's just like, so my reasoning for going has changed, but that also excites me as well, because I feel like that will open me up to new experiences, to maybe get more into comics or to, discover a new fandom that I never knew before, like Star Trek or something else. So it kind of opens me up when I'm not just so dialed into just, my own particular fandom of Power Rangers or Turtles. So that excites me to kind of maybe broaden a little bit more of my experience and my fandom as well.
And last year, Lisa and I didn't do Hall H on Saturday.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing Saturday.
We did. We had a great time.
Yeah. So, there's pros and cons to it, but I love it nonetheless.
I'm just going to lay it on thick, Brian, when those tickets go on sale.
I'm going to get my tickets.
Okay.
I'm going to get my tickets.
I'm going to get my tickets.
I'll make my decision. I'll just take that as a loss, but I'll make my decision. But I'm going to get my tickets.
And Darren, with you and Sia and Zach, like how are you feeling after that first experience?
Well, I kind of was, I had been feeling like what Brian just expressed. I had been feeling like that for a while, but then Fantastic Fest happened, and with the time required, like as far as taking off from work, but then also just finance wise, it was at one point it was coming down to like me having to potentially choose between the two.
Sure.
And because I like Brian, I was going to Comic-Con for the movie stuff. I was like, well, do I go to Comic-Con for a panel in Hall H for like an hour and a half, or do I go to Fantastic Fest and spend like 8 days in a movie theater and watch 40 freaking movies? And so and with the studios pulling out of San Diego more and more, it was like, man, I gotta do Fantastic Fest. But again, like what Brian mentioned, like my reasonings have changed, but also, like I said earlier, like when I go, every year has been a different experience, a different motivation, a different theme for me, right? And so with Sia going this year, I kind of screwed myself, because now, whether or not I want to ever go again, Sia has been bitten. She has the bug now. She's never gonna not want to go.
And Darren's not lying. Darren's not being a proud dad and playing it up. I watched Sia. Sia got
She's a
hooked.
nerd.
She's a big time nerd.
And so, I that basically solidifies my spot next year. Whether I feel like going or not, like Sia feels like going next year, so Disco is going to be there next year.
Nice.
But when I go, like I always, if there's no particular panel, if there's no movie studio there's something else that happens that makes that trip worthwhile. Like that year before last, the year before that, because I didn't go last year. The year before that, though, when I was there, one of my favorite things that happened wasn't even in the convention center. It wasn't even during the day. It was when Brian and I, we did our little nighttime excursion and went like club hopping and did Coyote Ugly.
Oh yeah,
rode on a mechanical bull.
That was
like
fun.
that was like one of my favorite Comic-Con experiences, and that wasn't even and that's what I was hinting at earlier, Brian, when I was like, as far as like reasoning to get you to go, like maybe that's what we do. Like we still go. But, outside of just planning for what are we planning to do on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the convention or around the convention, like maybe we just have a chill, a low-key day at the convention, but plan to do something in the Gaslamp, like
out there,
have a different experience, make the most of that time out there because there's so much to do out there.
And those are the memories that I remember. It's never like a panel. Even I do remember panels, the Molten and your whole thing. And I remember all that stuff, but it's like that night hanging out with those group of people, bar hopping.
You never remember the trailer. You remember the emotion of the room when the trailer happened.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't remember the content of what was being said in that Jonathan Hickman panel, but you remember the emotion of how you felt as it was being said.
And I remember Black Panther. When that cast came out in 2016, like these are the things that resonate with me that will stay with me to the day I die. So I mean, like you can't replace those things, So it's like, and I don't want to miss out on that next moment that I might have that could inspire me, So
right.
It's hard. It's hard to not go.
Well, but like it is expensive.
It is.
And talking about Fantastic Fest, like right now, Lisa and I are like really trying to figure out how we can make Fantastic Fest happen. We're gonna go.
We're going.
But to do both in 1 year, especially in the year that we've been having, like that's a challenge.
When I don't work, I don't make money because I work for myself.
Yeah.
So it's
you
huge...
only need one kidney.
I know. I do know that. Yeah.
And especially if you're just going to sit around and watch movies.
I know.
Plasma costs some mad bank. So
So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But all right, real quick, because we are pushing. We're talking like in-game runtime right now.
Well, it is the epic Comic-Con review.
And congratulations to Endgame. That was some nice news to hear while we were out in San Diego.
To cross
Avatar can suck it.
That was one of Feige's announcements at the panel. Actually. So congratulations to that. Real quick, your favorite moment at Comic-Con 2019, Brian.
Like I said before, just hanging out with you guys, hanging out with the whole Con family. Like I said, being in that vestibule area on Sunday afternoon and just seeing the cosplayers and just hanging around talking. The dinner with Scott and his family, like all that stuff. And then, of course, Marvel.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that stands out.
All right. That was moments, but I said moment. But okay, I'll take it because it was great. Wife Dork.
One moment, Lisa. Don't pull a Brian.
Uh-oh.
Or pull a Brian.
For me, like, what I'm taking away from this year was my trilogy of muses. I really didn't get into, like, the third muse, but the first muse was insecure, quiet, out of his element muse at the 90s panel. Then chill, really sweet muse in the interview. And then to see him really in his element at the Kevin Smith panel, that was just really beautiful. Because after the interview, I'm like, we're best friends now, I think. Like, it goes like me, then Kevin Smith. And so that was awesome.
Yeah.
This is something we didn't even talk about, but like, this was one of those things, because things with kids, they can go on like ridiculously long.
Oh, with Sia?
But Sia decided that we wanted to tell each other scary stories.
Oh my God! Why did I'm sorry.
It was like literally the funniest thing. So I would first tell a scary story where I would just recap. First, I recapped like The Shining, and then she told this really freaky story where it was about like this little girl who loved to write stories, but she didn't have any ink, so she was writing stories in her own blood. And so she started going through the blood of her like siblings and her parents.
It's got really dark.
Sia's gonna get me in fucking trouble one day.
And then like I told her Crimson Peak, and then she went into and they were like elaborate, but it was like one of those things where it's like I'm trapped now into storytelling with Sia. So it was like one of those things where it started out super fun, and then it started to drag a little, and other people were starting to lose interest. So it was just me and Sia.
I bailed.
But then like it kept kept going until I loved it again. So like literally, I did not want it to stop. It was so funny.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, you're right. I meant to bring that up too. That was great.
That was too great.
Don't ever do that shit.
I love our 2-woman improv team.
Oh man,
that was just so awesome.
All right, B, your favorite.
My favorite moment was being in that hotel suite and watching Lisa interview Jason Mewes.
Yeah,
that was like the highlight for me.
Yeah.
Then number 2 was the Hall H line, but specifically before we got the wristbands, the late afternoon leading up to it with all the anxiety and all the tension building, but the conversation that we were having, the stories that we were being told, the scary stories, all that stuff. I just loved the Hall H line this year.
Yeah. All right. My favorite moment, easily is there. This was after the convention. We were trying to go to we were trying to go to the what do you call that room? The
merchandise
room to get our
redemption room.
But it was closed.
No Comic-Con pirate this year.
Yeah, but that's okay because I still had a special moment. So we were just hanging out, trying to figure out our next move, just shooting the shit. And I had bought her a plush anime incubator named Kube from her show Madoka Magica. It's an anime that she watches, and there was a gentleman down there who he was a Pokemon collector, and he comes over to see it, and he asks her, "Is that a Pokemon? What character is that?" And she explains, "No, this is a character from this anime that I watch." And she's explaining the show to him, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I don't know that. My friend, she probably knows all about that, but I don't know about that." And so Sia goes, "Oh, okay." And so as that guy's leaving, his friend joins him to leave, and the lady goes, "Oh my goodness, you have a Kube, you have an incubator." And Sia is like, "Yeah." And she comes over, and Sia's like, she's like, "Oh my goodness, I love that show." And so while Sia is enjoying this conversation with this lady and this recognition, I also brought Sia a scroll, which is basically like a poster, but it's a fabric poster from another anime that Sia watches called Fairy Tail. And the girl sees that and she goes, "Oh, you got you have a Fairy Tail scroll." And Sia goes, "You watch that show too?" And she goes, "Yeah." And then the lady's talking about, "Oh, I cosplay as her, and I cosplay as..." She's talking about these characters from these shows that Sia watches. And Sia looks down like at her Kube, and she whispers. She's not whispers to herself, but she says like really low to herself, She likes the same things that I like. She watches everything that I watch." And like that's it.
That's awesome.
That was the that's the essence of Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Lisa was talking about earlier. These people are like-minded people that share your interests. This is where you go when you in the real world. No one knows what the frickin' incubator is, or Kube is, or Madoka Magica. Sia doesn't have one friend at school in her dance class that can relate to her in those interests. They don't know what that show is. I'm the only person in Sia's life outside of that lady that she met at Comic-Con that knows what that show is. And so for her to go somewhere and see another girl, another female who is into the things that she's into, validates her love for that thing. Mm-hmm. And that was tremendous for her. And that's what made her say, "I love Comic-Con. I like this place. There are people here who like what I like." Mm-hmm. And so for her to experience that on her first time and get the idea of that at 9 years old is everything to me. Like, I will never forget that. And so, yeah, that's my favorite moment from this year. So, ladies and gentlemen, for all things Comic-Con, you should be following us at ItModcast. Like I said, on our Instagram feed and on our Twitter feed, we have a bunch of stuff that's been posted chronicling our adventures. If you missed that or were interested in any of that Hall H goings on, if you weren't following us that day, there's a ton of stuff. I was posting like a madman. I don't know how I did that. I don't really do it in that way. But for Saturday, all the reveals and
lots of video
was up. Follow the podcast at ItModcast. Listen to our preview cast if you missed that. And Brian, what do you got coming up soon?
As far as what I'm looking forward to?
Yeah, when are you putting that footage out that you shot at Comic-Con?
I'm editing now. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, if it's not out, then by later this week.
All right. So in order to see that and see all the cool stuff that Brian shot at Comic-Con, follow us on YouTube at ItModcast. You can follow him at Brian William Young on Facebook, at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram. Wife Dork, what do you got coming up? What are you looking forward to?
Yes. So coming out this week on our It Modcast feed and our comic book couples counseling feed will be the interview with Jason Mewes. Yes. That is mostly me, but also Brad's craggly frog voice.
Yes.
Also coming out this week on comic book couples counseling, our next chapter with Mary Jane and Peter Parker. This one is... What is it called?
One More Day.
One More Day. Sorry, I've podcasted literally all day, but so has Brad. And so that's coming out this week too.
All right, and you can follow her at Wife Dork on Twitter, at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, at Bake on Twitter, at Bake Dork.
Oh no, we're losing
I haven't been podcasting all day, but I've been podcasting for at least 3 hours and 16 minutes. So you can follow her at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd.
Yes.
And Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untappd. What do you got coming out this week?
I'm looking forward to rewatching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've seen it once. A lot to take in.
Yep.
Need to see it again.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I also got to see The Farewell. I was playing at the Angelica.
Oh.
So good.
Farewell's one of the best films of the year.
Hands
I saw
down.
your Letterboxd, but what was your score? I didn't see yours on Letterboxd.
I don't post on Letterboxd. I'm a bad person.
She would give it 4 stars.
4 stars.
Okay.
I mean, it's a solid flick.
Really
and then
in my top 5.
Okay.
And on driving home, we re-listened to the This American Life story.
Okay.
So awesome.
All right, I will see that. I will check that out. Well, that leads right into me. What is Disco looking forward to this week? Rewatching Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and I'm sorry, in Hollywood, not Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Brian, fuck you and Robert. And also The Farewell. I'm looking forward to that.
It's on audio now.
God damn it, I'm gonna edit that out. You can follow me at the Disco Dork on all social medias. That is gonna do it for us. Thank you all for listening. If you can make it out to San Diego Comic-Con with us next year, please do so. That way you don't have to listen to the recap. You can be amongst us as we experience all the magic. You can be a part of the recap. But until then, thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week and weekend. Go watch some more movies. And until next time.